Hey everyone, this is Kit Cabello with Hard Lens Media. Today I'm joined here with Daniel Lupker, and this is the Thursday show. This is the 2-hour show. So in the second hour, Lainey Peterson will be joining us for the Consumer Report, as well as telling us other interesting facts that are happening here in the city of Chicago. So please, everyone, stay tuned. We got a lot to talk about. This is going to be an awesome show. Thank you so much for joining us. We know that there are a lot of people live streaming, and you guys decided to join us here at Hard Lens Media, Chicago's fastest growing progressive media network. And again, without you guys, this channel would not exist. So be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. All of you are building this channel up. And if you want to help us even further, please consider being a Patreon supporter. Your support will help us maintain our studio, update our gear and equipment, work on future projects. And we're only asking for a $1 donation so we can get to our $2,000 per month goal. And again, I'm just so humbled by what you guys have done. Yeah,
we know it's a very difficult time right now. We know a lot of people are out of work, but
yeah,
if you can put $1 our direction, if you can put more, that's great. If you can put $1 our direction, it really does help. We're doing a lot behind the scenes. We're basically all, I guess, in the same boat, waiting for everything to be safe enough to open up broadly, not just essential services and the stuff that's opening now, but. We have a lot that we really are looking forward to showing you guys in the summer. Now, ironically, it would have been out by now if everything had not been shut down, but we're looking forward to showing you some cool stuff going forward.
And again, so on behalf of the entire team, we here at Hard Lens Media are grateful to all of you. And we know, again, if you can't become a Patreon supporter, we know times are tough for a lot of people. Just like, comment, share, and subscribe, and let everyone know that Hard Lens Media is live every Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for our folks on the West Coast, and if you're in the Midwest, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. But now, let's get things started with our first story. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we are about to Biden it up. No. Oh, no, wait, never mind. I'd rather not. So why am I talking about good old sleepy, creepy Uncle Joe? Well, it's not really about Uncle Joe himself. It's more about a campaign official that's representing Joe Biden. Now, why is this important, you may ask? Well, the director of rapid response for former Vice President Joe Biden's presidential campaign called CBS News senior investigative correspondent Catherine Herridge a right-wing hack in a tweet that was later deleted. Oh, no. Why is the Biden campaign attacking reporters? I thought they were all for a free press, right?
Well, no, remember, it's just like everything that we've covered with the Democratic Party. Hey, we're for all women. All women need to be protected. We need to unless they disagree with us, then they don't. All reporters, Trump needs to stop attacking reporters unless they disagree with us, then no.
Yeah. So let's talk about the context behind this. So Andrew Bates criticized Heritage in a deleted tweet for exclusive reporting obtaining acting director of national intelligence Richard Grenell's notification to Congress. The notification contained a list of dozens of former Barack Obama administration officials who reportedly asked for documents that led to the identity of former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn being unmasked from intelligence reports between the 2016 election and President Trump's inauguration. Christine Harris. So here's what the tweet said. Scoop. This is what Bates basically said. This is what Bates said about the reporter. Scoop. Catherine Herridge is a partisan right-wing hack who is a regular conduit for conservative media manipulation ploys because she agrees to publicize things before contacting the target to ask for comment, which was later deleted. So wait.
Their issue with this is you're a right-wing hack that shouldn't be trusted because you didn't call us and verify the story. So. But that seems like a really odd definition of right-winger to me.
Okay, but hold on. There's another thing, too. They deleted that tweet because Biden said something very important, something coherent, many months ago about the press and the independent press. Why is this important, you may ask? Well, Biden went on to say this. Attacking the press and attempting to intimidate independent media is a standard part of the authoritarian playbook, Biden said in a statement earlier this month. Efforts to undermine public confidence in the integrity of fact-based reporting violate our core American values and threaten our very system of government. Journalists hold those positions of authority accountable, investigate and document abuses of power, and expose the truth for everyone to see. In a Biden White House, there will be no bullying of the media by tweet.
That's really interesting and also now provably false.
again, the hypocrisy of the Biden campaign. And also, again, look, if you're going to be posting something on social media, like I always say, you got to be careful about it. The internet is a fun playground to be in, but it's also a dangerous place to be at as well. It's a double-edged sword. So when you post something on social media, when you state something, it is going to be up there forever. And just because you might delete something, well, just remember this, it's not gone. It's going to be up there. So it doesn't matter who you are, what you believe in. When you delete something, somebody's going to notice. Somebody is going to be aware of it because on the internet, people talk. People talk all the time. So again, well done, Biden campaign, for showing your hypocrisy. And with this whole situation with Michael Flynn right now becoming a new front line headline, it's just another thing that the Biden campaign is going to have to deal with. And, are we so certain that he's a strong front runner now? Daniel, what do you think?
So this is what it's so crazy. It's like we're always bittersweet and right. Well, we're not always. We're that a lot.
We are
more.
always right here at
We're
Harlan's
always right.
Media.
We are. You must follow us to the letter, and if you don't, you're no. But I mean to say that our track record is vastly superior to mainstream media. Can we say that? That seems fair.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
so.
Yeah. Let's
We
be
have
arrogant
okay. So let's just go with. I'm gonna make this. I'm literally gonna make the same argument I make with Tara Reid. I'm just gonna apply it to this because it applies the exact same way. Whenever the Biden camp says something or makes a stance that they then contradict themselves on, which is in this case what we're dealing with now, Tara Reid, it goes a number of steps further. It doesn't help for a number of reasons. One of which is they have this really terrible stance of just like somehow like addressing it enough that it keeps peaking in people's minds. It keeps these embers going. It keeps the talk of it going. It keeps this wrestling going. Keeps it going in the back of people's heads, but not enough to actually like professionally like break it down. Like I've been saying, we've been saying, hey, you should address these complaints with Tara Reid. These complaints, I mean, I guess in this sense, the person who wrote it that is probably not being fired, I would guess. They probably still have a job with Biden, even though they did the thing that they shouldn't have done. My point is, by not addressing these things in the present head on, full throated, that's maybe not the right term to use for Biden, but you're going to just make it smolder and last. And then once we get out of the quarantine and we're in the open again, and when the election comes closer, Biden and Trump has just this satchel of goodies to attack him with.
What I say is he has a treasure trove of content for him to use.
And so, meanwhile, when Trump has these things happen to him, Trump's like either like, "Yeah, I did it, so what?" or he just moves on to something else. But he's actually successful at getting the media to go to something else. Biden is basically just creating a list of gifts for Trump that Trump's going to have to throw at him at the election because it's never been addressed. And so now, again, you have this hypocrisy. Biden's like, I am morally superior because I defend the press. Unless they disagree with me, then my staff will call them right-wingers because they didn't call. And by the way, we are talking about Biden right now. So 1 second. I was told something about hairy legs that I got hung up on. So I guess, but we got our comments, so there we go. It's like, what does Biden want? It's like every time we do a story, do we have to call him? Actually, that'd be great. I'd love to get Biden's direct number just to be.
Okay, so here's the thing. So here's the thing. We managed to get the Greens and Libertarians to come onto our show because, hey, thanks to you guys, our viewers and subscribers, we're able to at least interview third parties. So Biden, if you want to come onto our show and talk to us,
or try to talk to us,
or try to talk to us. Hey, we invite you on to hear your side, your perspective.
And right now you're not here, so we may be talking our feelings and sort of fact.
Yeah.
But if you're here, we will give you the. Well, you sit right here, Biden. We'll give you the good old.
And we'll have
Harlan's
ice cream
media.
too.
We'll have as much ice cream as you can lick.
Oh my God!
And look at.
On this, before we end this, look, everyone, to our viewers, can we have the camera on me for 1 second? I had high hopes for this primary. I really did, and I'm so sorry. I was wrong, I really believed in something, and boy, it just doesn't feel good knowing that the whole thing was just one big waste of time. But nonetheless, we must continue and push forward, and we're going to move on now to our next story. Daniel, you got a story for the people. What's going on, buddy?
So this is another Biden story. Also, not a Sanders story, really a Sanders-Biden story. This is interesting. I really feel like, wait, I'm hearing like talking points I heard from like 2016, like all around me in this story. It is happening again, folks.
No, don't. Let's, Daniel, only one person can do Obama, and that's me. All right, so
Fair enough.
read the story, please.
Okay, fine. So, everyone's going, hey, we're running out of money. Let's get Bernie Sanders to give over his list that he's never going to give us over. Hopefully. If he gives over that list, I'm going to be really upset. But, and we'll get to that bridge when we come to it, but so far he hasn't. And we are having this discussion again 4 years later. The presidential candidates' campaigns for former Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Bernie Sanders appear to be working seamlessly together in the idea it's like clothing that doesn't have any seams, and no seamstress has actually worked on it yet. But some Democrats are questioning why Sanders has not offered his volunteered fundraising list to help Biden overcome the massive cash deficit he faces against President Donald Trump. As if Bernie Sanders, like people, it's like basically people like us, like the people that, did give money to him, were on the email, so all of a sudden you go, well, Joe Biden sent me an email. I mean, I wasn't thinking of donating to him before, but I mean, once I got this email, I gave him $20. No. Sanders' list of supporters is viewed as one of the most valuable commodities in politics because, of course, it's a commodity and not Sanders' ideas, not the things that can actually win the election or get people out. It's the money-raising ability, which is the most important thing in modern politics, which is why China will be eclipsing us in a number of years. Anyway, since suspending his campaign for president, Sanders has used it to raise money to reelect progressive members of Congress, to support state-level progressives, and to raise money for coronavirus relief efforts. But so far, at least, he hasn't leveraged it to raise money for Biden, drawing criticism from Democrats who are waving those fingers at him because they think that like people like us are going to be like, oh, yeah, we'll give to Biden. I just didn't know he had a email. I didn't know where to put the money. I was going to put money for Biden. I just couldn't find it. This email solved? No, it won't. It will not. It'll just piss people off. Vice President Biden is honored to have Senator Sanders' strong endorsement and is looking forward to his continued work closely with him. I remind everyone, he looked surprised when Sanders endorsed him. So there you have it. And enact also that's why they wouldn't let Nina Turner on the fake task force that's not going to do anything because they're so close. They're joined at the hip.
The task force that will solve it all.
Mm-hmm. So to enact I'm looking forward to continue working closely with him to defeat Donald Trump, which is apparently a policy position at this point in time, that will rebuild our middle class and end rampant corruption and cronyism we've seen under the current administration, said a spokesperson for someone who fits those exact same criteria nearly to the letter. Chuck Rocha, a senior advisor to the Sanders campaign, said the list only works because the supporters are energized to give directly to Sanders or because they share the same passion for the progressive causes Sanders supports. Like that's the big thing. It's like they're so stupid. It's like I don't get how they think this works. That would be like, my God, Sanders would have won if only Joe Biden had given a donor list to him. Then Sanders would have gotten all. It's like, what are you talking about? The reason that Sanders has a list that's so different from the Democratic Party is because the people that donated don't like the Democratic Party. And if they were going to vote for Biden, it's not like they need them to be like they don't need to have like an email sent to them every 5 hours to remind them to vote. That's just going to annoy people. If anything, putting this list out is going to cause less people to come out to vote, which is already hard because so few people are coming out to vote. This election coming up is ironically, so like young people, like anything under 45, any issue that we've brought up that are even looked at as young people issues, like Medicare for all, which is sort of ironic, or Green New Deal or anything like that, considered young people issues by people in Congress. The great irony is this election that we're about to watch is going to be decided basically by people aged, on average, like 65, 70.
Yeah.
So and again, we have a lot of wonderful older individuals watching the show right now, and you guys know that you're fighting the good fight. But to the other people that aren't doing this, that are watching CNN and like MSN, they're like, oh, I can't wait for Chris Hayes to give me his breakdown. These are the people that have given us Trump and Biden. Look at this. These are the people that are in power. This is the best that they could give us. They ignored everyone else. They ignored you. They ignored us. They ignored the American people. They ignored, at large, anyone under 45.
Yep.
And now they're like, well, if we only had the email list for those people, they would have given us more money.
Yeah, okay, so here's the problem. If Bernie Sanders does this and actually gives that list out, it's just another disappointment from Bernie. Because, I expected a little bit more out of Bernie Sanders. Perhaps it was too much. Then that was my mistake. I didn't expect him to cave in, even though this entire situation that we're in right now is basically tailor-made for Bernie Sanders' policies. And I mean, let's face it, Medicare for all, student debt forgiveness, medical debt forgiveness, climate change, rebuilding our infrastructure, and dare I say it, hey, let's even put this one in, a real UBI for the American people. But these issues are just deemed young people issues. Well, I'm pretty sure to the 50 million Americans that are on unemployment right now and don't have health insurance, that's not a young person idea. These are social issues that we desperately need. And the Biden campaign, remember, Biden said nothing will fundamentally change. He said that he would veto Medicare for all. So just imagine how Bernie Sanders supporters would feel as soon as they get an email from good old Joe 30330. I mean, come on. I mean, everyone's going to be pissed off. I'm going to be pissed off. I'm going to be angry. I don't see Biden and his entire campaign and his magical task force fighting for us. All this is just smoke and mirrors just to try and make us feel good so we could beat Trump. Look, the only way you're going to beat Trump is by having a strong progressive candidate that actually really, can challenge Trump on policy issues. We had that. There was somebody, but that person quit. All right? Sorry. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Not that he dropped out. He quit. Bernie Sanders quit.
Could have gotten some concessions.
He could have got something, but he got nothing. And so when we hear Joe Biden and all the Democrats start blaming us and poking their fingers at us, saying, well, it's your fault, it's your fault. No, it's your fault that you didn't reach out to us. It's your fault that you sided with the Republicans. It's your fault that you sided with corporations. It's your fault that you sided with the banks. It's your fault that you decided to bail out the top 1% while the rest of us out here are starving. Look, we're not out of this crisis yet. We are in, and going to be basically in the beginnings of a real Great Depression. COVID-19, hey, look, I'm not an expert on it. Daniel, do your quick WHO commentary real quick.
Anytime we talk about COVID, I have to make the disclaimer to everyone because of YouTube and their endless generosity and intellect that they have. That if anything that we say in the rest of the show, and because we're clipping this out in any segment that we do, if we say anything that disagrees with the current position of the WHO, we are obviously and automatically incorrect, wrong, and should not be. Look, you should go to the WHO's website because, as you know, when the WHO said that the coronavirus is not transmissible between people, they were correct. When they said to not wear a mask, they were correct. When they said to wear a mask, they were correct. So these infallible people at the WHO that YouTube has decided are the godlike entities that determine what is right about this virus. So if our poor pauper selves get anything wrong on this, know that the WHO is correct and overrides anything that we say.
And so as a final note, too, again, we are not out of this crisis with COVID-19. There could be another second wave, and we really need to start talking about maybe a true Medicare for all. We need to talk about debt forgiveness. We need to talk about investing into the American people, real UBI. So if Bernie Sanders does this, if he actually gives that list out, it's not going to inspire people. It's not going to make people feel good. It's going to enrage people. So what is the solution? I understand that there's a lot of people upset. I understand there's a lot of people angry. What do? Well, okay, let's talk about voting third party. Let's actually really try and do this. Let's try and build a movement. Now, I'm not saying that building a third party will solve every single thing, but it's a step. Now, I'm going to vote third party because I'm not going to vote for Biden. I'm not going to vote for Trump. I want to at least vote for somebody with a clear conscience. I did that in 2016, and I'm going to do that again. And all of you, each of you, to our viewers and subscribers, to our supporters and to our critics, each of us must make our own decision. There's no voter shaming here. But vote how you believe in. I believe that we should start investing into third parties and truly creating a real parliamentary system because what we have here doesn't work. And if Bernie actually gives out that donor list, well, hey, another stab in the back from Bernie, right? I guess that's the point.
I want to read this because I think it's always good to go back at this, whenever we talk about this big divide.
Yeah.
By the way, a good thing that you can always say to people is, I'm an independent. Why do you think I owe you a vote? Anyway, so here it is. Look, I know, and this is a wonderful meme. I shared it on Discord right back. By the way, check out our Discord. Link below. Look, I know we called you brown shirts, blamed you for Trump, called you Russian bots, constantly lie about your agenda, gaslit you for years, engaged in mass voter suppression, got weird with an app in Iowa, and I know we won't adopt any of your ideas, and I know Biden said he'd veto Medicare for all, but I'm really going to need you to vote for this senile puppet now, otherwise Trump is going to win. This is what we're fighting against. The people, and we will tell the effectiveness of our message for those of us that will not be voting in either of the two decrepit parties that exist right now in their current form. And we will know the success of our mission by the rantings and the ravings of the people and the intensity and the consistency in which people that are voting in those parties try and shame us for voting the way we want in a democracy.
Yeah. All right. That's a good note to end it on. So now let's talk about another story. And it's a direct slap in the face to all of us. I'm going to talk about the world's first trillionaire or multi-trillion. Guess who I'm talking about? Good old Jeff Bezos.
We'll see if he's the first.
Yeah, we have to see if he is the first. But but before we get started on this story, we actually got a $2 super chat from good friend of the show, Ben Riley. Still no luck yet. I'll keep you posted.
Okay.
All right. I think that's more of an inside conversation between Ben Riley and Daniel.
Wait,
so
we've been working on something.
all right. So let's get started. Slap in the face. That's what we're all going to get from Amazon. As Bezos' wealth jumps $30 billion amid pandemic, Amazon is set to end a $2 per hour hazard pay for workers. Well, by gosh and gee golly, okay, maybe things are finally going back to normal, folks. We're screwing over the working class again. Online retail giant Amazon has repeatedly referred to its workers as heroes. Interesting phrase for the word hero when we interviewed a representative from the Chicago Amazon strike group.
He didn't feel like he was being treated like a hero.
Yeah, they were all being treated like crap. 2 of their co-workers tested positive for COVID-19, and that entire warehouse facility here in Chicago is unsafe, and there's a real risk of anyone who orders anything from that warehouse getting infected with COVID-19. But again, hey, the workers are heroes as they carry out their jobs during the coronavirus pandemic. But the company announced this week that it's planning to end both $2 an hour pay increases.
Hazard.
And double time for warehouse workers at the end of May, even as CEO Jeff Bezos sees his wealth continue to soar. Whole Foods and Amazon-owned supermarket chain also informed employees Tuesday that their $2 hourly raises will end on June 1st. Again, $2. My God. We treat people like garbage in this country. I mean, at this point, we're just giving scraps and what, $2 an hour. That's going to solve everything. That's going to put more bread on the table.
That's the thing that blows my mind.
But there's another thing. It's just like the lack of respect. This is what we're supposed to get, a pile of crap and just eat it and just say, that's it, enjoy it.
Oh, there's the chocolate sprinkle in there. How lucky am I?
Yeah, how lucky we all are. So when Amazon announced the first wage hike on March 16th, it was set to run through till the end of April. But Amazon later extended that policy through May 16th. Now the increases will end on May 31st. Asked by Recode by why the hazard pay won't continue beyond the end of this month, an Amazon spokesperson dodged the question. This appreciation and pay incentive enable us to deliver essential items to communities during these unpredictable times. The spokesperson said, "We are grateful to associates supporting customers during a time of increased demand." And by supporting the associates, it means telling them where they need to go to get government benefits. Amazon's not taking care of its workers. Hold on, for the people in back. Amazon is not taking care of its workers. And remember, those warehouses are unsafe. There's a good chance a lot of them are infected with COVID-19, and COVID-19 can survive on a lot of surfaces. So that means when those packages get delivered to individual homes, such as Amazon buyers, that buyer is putting themselves and their family and community at risk because that package probably came from a warehouse that is infected with COVID-19. But again, hey, anything to make a profit, right, Jeff Bezos? It just shows how very little regard Amazon has for its overworked employees. Another Amazon worker told Business Insider that the decision was a slap in the face as Amazon moves to end small hazard pay increases for its workers. An analysis released Thursday by the Institute of Policy Studies found that Bezos, the richest man in the world, saw his wealth increase by $30 billion between March 18th and May 14th. Hundreds of Amazon warehouse workers and Whole Foods employees have called in sick or walked off the job in recent weeks to demand better pay and adequate safety equipment. So again, another employee told CBS News that at least 600 Amazon workers have tested positive for COVID-19. Amazon treats the humans in the warehouses as fungible units of pick and pack potential. So again, what's the solution? What is the solution? So to all the Amazon workers worldwide, all the Whole Food workers worldwide, it's just not nationwide, but I'm talking about worldwide, walk off, strike, shut it all down. Just for one day, one day, not one day. I want to be bold here. I don't know if every single Amazon worker will see this, and probably not. But, you know, hey, I'm going to do my 95% New York dream.
Go for it.
Just imagine 1 week, all of you collectively together walk off the job and just shut it down. Like no one answers their phone calls. Everyone just leaves and just shuts it down. I know it's a risk, and I know there's a danger, and I know there's people that have to provide for their families, and that's understandable. But for this one moment, that one moment in human history, if Amazon just shut down for 1 week, all the workers in the warehouse facilities, all the workers at Whole Foods just walked away. It's okay. It's okay to do it. You don't owe Jeff Bezos anything. You don't owe those managers anything. You could just walk off the job. Go ahead and do it. It's your right because you are not a robot. You're not some animal. You're not a beast of labor. You're a human being, and you deserve rights and protections. And our government's not going to do it. So you know what? You make the world's richest man feel it. You strike 1 week. Don't go in the warehouses. Just shut it down. I know it's scary. I know it's frightening. But you're not alone. Let's stand together, everyone.
So this is something that okay, so there's a lot of things that people have been rightfully complaining about that have been happening in the U.S. since the shutdown happened, such as, hey, we weren't really prepared for this at all. Hey, we don't have any supplies. Hey, I went bankrupt trying to get tested when the president said it was going to be free. Hey, why don't we have a system that's set up that the president can say that testing for a pandemic is free and it's not? And the list goes on and on, but I think something that is a slap in the face and a joke is this hazard pay. Because I remember when this all first started, they weren't offering any additional pay, and they were like, okay, we'll do like a dollar or two more an hour. So here's my thing. Why is it acceptable to die for $2? It's absurd. It's offensive. And I don't think that we're yelling enough about it. And I guess it's too late now because everyone's going back to work. Now, I know there's like some people are like, hey, why are we starting up now? Hey, certain companies, why are they starting up now when they shouldn't be, blah, blah, blah. But why is it when everything was shut down and these essential workers who have this new title of importance, oh, you keep the economy going. Without you, everything would fall apart. Without you, everything would starve. Without you, packages wouldn't get delivered. Without you, the economy, you deserve $2 more an hour. That's absurd. That's a laugh in the face. It's almost worse than not even getting a raise at all. Because if you're making in a lot of states that have like around maybe 15, maybe you're getting paid $10 or $12 an hour, that's like a 20% raise for doing something that you're a hero to do. Now, I was under the mistake that heroes get paid more money. Well, for example, if you're a police officer, you usually get less training than a beautician does going to school, and you get paid in a couple of years $100,000. And what do you get? A union that'll back you no matter what. You basically get to do nearly whatever you want. You don't have to know the law, even. $100,000. Look at that, $70,000, $100,000. You get benefits. You're set. In the city of Chicago, most of our money goes to the police. But if you're someone that's keeping the country fed, and we've talked, and Laney's brought this up a lot of times, that if you're continually getting infected by people that have COVID, that's even worse. So those are the people that are the heroes in this time that probably make less than a shift than like a cop does in like 2 hours. It's absurd.
Walk off the job. It's okay. And I'm not going to yell about it. I'm not going to scream about it. I'm just going to calmly say this. Everyone who works at Amazon, at those warehouse facilities, you know what? You are essential. But more importantly, you are a human being. You deserve rights, and you don't deserve to die for $2 an extra pay raise. No, you deserve more. You deserve dignity and respect. And so those politicians, Democrats and Republicans that are in Washington, D.C., could you for once do your job and take care of people? But no, you're not going to do it.
Yeah, Nancy Pelosi's like,
Nancy,
asked about. She's like,
calm down, calm down. Amazon workers, walk off the job, nationwide, worldwide. Shut the warehouses down. Don't show up. I mean, they treat you like garbage, and you're not garbage. They dance and drink because they believe you are weak. The top 1%, that's what they think about you guys right now. They dance and drink because they believe you are weak. And I know one thing right now to all those Amazon workers, you are not weak. You show them how strong you are. You shut the whole damn thing down. Do it. The whole world is watching. We're going to move on now to our next story.
We do have a super chat.
We do got a super chat. Yes, we do. All right, $5 super chat from good friend of the show, Ben Riley. That was actually my favorite Spider-Man version, too, Ben Riley.
The Ben Riley version?
Yeah, the clone. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. While I'm doing that, is there any more developments with the Ahmed Aubrey case?
I think that their bail was set, and it was actually like $500,000. I don't know if they got a posted bail or not, or if they were just let out or whatever. Yeah, we'll have to check back on it.
I have a bit of a small.
Okay, well,
update
All right,
here.
let's hear from Gunnar. Gunnar, take the mic.
Hey, what's going on? I'm in the back here doing whatever. So I just kind of like, I saw the super chat and I wanted to see if there was any update. This is all that I can really find from it's from the local news outlet there. They're talking about basically how the retired chief investigator guy the guy who got arrested, like failed to complete proper police training for years and just
Hey, it's exactly what I said. Police have less training on average than beauticians. They usually have 6 months of training.
It says here, like one quote is, between 2006 and 2014, McMichael didn't have the authority or right to apply for arrest warrants, search warrants, or conduct arrests under the color of law. So that's basically all that I have for an update for you right now.
So the guy that's done it, which again, they literally wouldn't prosecute him. Is that guy's a friend? It's okay. Well, until the video came out, then they're like, oh no. So there you have it. Doesn't know anything. I want to remind everyone that in other countries, the police actually have to go to a police college to get trained, and that seems to make sense. Like I think that if you're in America and you want to be a police officer, you got to go to college. You got to go to a 4-year college. If a lawyer needs to go to college and then law school and then go through all of that to get their degree on how law operates, you need at least 4 years.
I also want to do one quick comment before we move on to our next story, and this comment just really stuck out. Underdog says this: everyone at Amazon could call in sick until Amazon unionized. You know what? Hey, don't have to strike. Just call in sick. Hey, you're sick. There we go. Hey, warehouse workers, just do that. Call in sick. Like, what are they going to do? They're going to knock on your door. They're going to hire a whole bunch of doctors to check on everybody. You know, Jeff Bezos, he's a penny pincher. He'll never do that. Everyone, there we go. That's something humorous. Call in sick. Just say, hey, I'm sick. There we go. All of you collectively do that. I mean, just do it. Just imagine for 1 week if Amazon.
I don't know. I wasn't gonna strike, but then he said, Daniel, I'm increasing your hourly wage by $2, and I was like, oh, I gotta stay.
Yeah. All right. Hey, they're gonna take away that. They're gonna take that all away. My God. So we are now gonna move on to our next story. Daniel, take it away. What is going on?
Okay, this story literally blew me away because it made me realize, oh, things are worse than I realized. So when we hear about the new unemployment rate and everyone's like, oh, it's almost 25% right now, it turns out that the people making, I don't know, like $60,000 up, whatever the number is, aren't getting laid off that much because of this story. 40% of households making less than $40,000 a year are all unemployed. So if you take the poorest Americans with the least amount of capacity and the least stringently done jobs, all that unemployment we've been talking about, it's mainly the poorest people in the country. So if you segment it that way, that basically makes their unemployment like 40%.
Okay.
That's pretty crazy. So let's talk about it. So Fed Chair Jerome Powell said on Wednesday that a substantial portion of lower-income Americans have been laid off. Substantial portion is maybe an understatement, but also I think technically correct. I don't know. Maybe someone in chat can give us some better adjectives. Among people who were working in February, almost 40% of those in households making less than $40,000 a year lost a job in March. 40%. That's 15% more than the average for the Great Depression. And again, the way that we count unemployment, we're sort of already there already. Many of these jobs are concentrated in the service sector, which are less likely to have benefits like paid sick leave. Like, we covered like Twitter and Microsoft and Google the other day. And they're like, oh yeah, we're just having everyone work from home. They already have computers. Blah, 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 blah. But these people don't have benefits. They probably don't even get that hazard pay because they were knocked off early. A survey from the Pew Research Center released in April found that 1 in 4 lower-income adults had any savings to cushion a financial shock caused by job losses or any other emergencies. Well, it's a good thing that Steve Mnuchin gave them $120 a week to satiate, and it's like, oh, thanks for giving me my income tax ahead of time. That really saved me. So here's what I'm really worried about, and it's the thing that it's like I don't know when to speak of it because I don't know how much of an impact I will have on this, but it's like whenever this quarantine is done, so many people are going to be screwed. So many people are going to be absolutely screwed because they're going to go back to work and their boss is going to say, again, and there's an expectation that about half of all businesses in the U.S. are going to go away in the next few years. So these people are going to go back to their work and they're going to say, hey, can I have my job back? And they probably have like 3 jobs, so they go to all their different bosses, hey, can I have my job back? Most of them are going to be like, sorry, buddy, not enough consumer demand. I'm not getting enough sales. Like I know with a lot of restaurants, which already had an incredibly tight margin, especially in cities where they're right next to each other and there's all the competition in the world. Their margins are so tight. So like a lot of restaurants, if they're at like 75% capacity, they're losing money. And a lot of restaurants that are currently reopening in the places that are reopening, so because like a lot of the red states are opening sooner than others, they're only at 25% capacity, which means they actually lose money by opening up. And again, so this is the vicious cycle of U.S. Employment because it's solely based on labor markets rather than a federal jobs guarantee of any kind. It is, I can't, I'm just going to say it just as one of these people they can't do anything because they got fired. I don't have any money, so I can't spend money in anywhere. Business owner, small business owner, a lot like them, goes, wow, no one's buying anything. I have to cut hours. I have to lay people off if I've brought them back on at all. Then you go to those people that are laid off and say, whoa, all of a sudden, I don't have any money. Vicious cycle continues. And we haven't even seen it yet because everyone's hunkered in place. We haven't seen the damage and the grime and the rust that has developed on the gears of the economy. So I know a lot of Republicans out there, or at least I'll speak in people in Congress, because that's really who I'm talking about. They've been on the warpath. We need to open up right now, no matter what the health consequences. Then it seems like a lot of the Democratic politicians are like, we need to close down until the health officials say it's perfectly safe. I'm not choosing one side or the other. I'm just saying these people are getting screwed because both of these sides are like, I don't want to bail out the regular people, though. We'll bail the businesses. We'll bail out lobbyists. Like Nancy Pelosi right now is like, I'm going to do what Trump did. I'm going to bail out the banks. I'm going to bail out the corporations. I'm going to bail out lobbyists because why not? I mean, they're very friendly. And I'm going to give maybe another $1,200 check to everyone else.
Yeah, there's talk about another $1,200 check coming our way. Whether that comes into fruition, I don't even know, because at this point, it is a vicious cycle. The top 1% got bailed out, and the working class got screwed. And I know there's a huge rush for everyone to return things back to normal. Look, I talked to a lot of people, different perspectives, and yeah, people want things to go back to normal. But here's the depressing truth. It's not coming back. That's gone. There's no going back to that. It's over. There's going to be a whole new world, and it's going to be frightening. It's going to be challenging, and a lot of people will get hurt. And we are going to see it firsthand, because the American people didn't get bailed out at all. It's the corporations that did.
Yeah, I mean,
and the thing is that when we see this, when we are seeing it out in the streets, we haven't seen the true consequences or repercussions, because like Daniel said, we're all still locked at home. And of course, there's a lot of people in the rush, but in this rush to do so, like there's, on the one hand, I agree. Yeah, let's reopen. On the other hand, too, we got to make sure everything's safe. I don't want to look at those two choices. The real choice that matters, the only choice that mattered in the first place, was protecting the average working class citizen, protecting them and their loved ones and their family. But that didn't happen. Apparently, we don't have the money for that. We have the money to bail out the corporations. We just don't have money to take care of our people. And that says a lot about our government. It says a lot about our institution. And what is our solution? We must strike. We must strike. We must make our voices heard, because obviously Washington, D.C., they don't care. Daniel, any other final words?
Yeah, this is the thing that I feel like we've always been missing, because right now it's the same conversation anytime I don't turn on TV, but when I watch clips of news or anything on this issue, or I watch pundits like It's like again. I'm always going to separate the politicians from the regular people. The Democrats always just again seem to be Trump's doing everything wrong. When he says reopen, we need to shut down even longer. If he says we need to open up a week sooner, we open up a week later. And Republicans are like, doesn't matter what the health is, doesn't matter if we kill a bunch more people. And again, no one cares about the little guy in America. No one cares that has power to do things. We were like AOC's on like some panel. It's like, why aren't people at least yelling? If you don't have the power to do something, why aren't you at least yelling, hey, here's the thing. I don't know what this number is going to look like, but there's going to be a number. And that number is, and in a weird way, we were already starting to see it by like the amount of weight that Americans are gaining in quarantine that we've been seeing, which of course is sort of really bad because it seems like being overweight is one of the worst things to have when you get the coronavirus. But can you just imagine how screwed millions of Americans are going to be? Not now, but in 3 months and 6 months when things open back up. And again, it's going to close back down eventually.
Because there's going to be a second wave. And look, I know especially in a lot of rural areas, like a lot of people want to point out that the cities got hit hard. Yeah, of course, cities got hit hard. These are large metropolitan areas, but to the rural areas all across the country, don't wait up. It's going to get to you guys soon enough. And there's many scenarios that can happen. Worst case scenario is that this virus gets really out of control and more people will suffer. And again, just let's think about it. We don't have a social safety net in this country. A lot of people are going to get hurt. And when I drive to the studio, I've been seeing more and more tent towns rise up, and it's very disheartening because this is going to be a horrible reality. But how we can walk through this is by making our voices heard, and by any which way, we got to make it happen.
Here's got to tell you a fun little thing I heard. I think it was on CNBC. One of their experts, one of the banking people, was like, it's like we learned a lot about bailouts. It's like it turns out every time you bail the businesses out, you get this like lower return. It's like and someone wrote, who was it? It was someone's comment earlier. Was saying, Stumpedel. We're talking about the $6.2 trillion divided amongst Americans, and he put 350 million Americans. It's about, I think it's 327 or something like that.
Yeah, something like 327.
It still comes out to like $17,700 per person. So it's like the bailout that is for everything like that. It's like, and that's the other thing. It's like you see a bunch of Republicans like, oh no, we can't bail out the people. That'd be a waste of money. How could we afford $1,000 a month when they're out here affording the equivalent of $17,000, $700?
Yeah.
Which would last, I don't know, almost 18 months. It's like a year and a half.
Well, more than 10 weeks, right? Ha ha. So now we are going to move on now to
another super chat.
Yeah, right. So real quick, we actually got 2 super chats, really. Yes. Shout out to Suffragam, $10. Any opinion on the Kuchar comment dangling the possibility of not holding the election in November? Is there any additional news regarding children and toxic shock syndrome / COVID-19 disease?
Generally, what I've seen again, disclaimer: WHO knows all in the world that ever has happened and never will. It seems to be very much not affecting younger people. The people that are younger that it is affecting do not seem to be all that common. Most of the time, it seems that everyone just gets it passively. It's really older people that have diabetes, obesity, and high blood pressure. It seems to be, and again, refer to WHO. That I actually don't know too much about. But as far as not holding the election, that's sort of constitutionally impossible. Just the way the Constitution's written, you can't not hold an election. You can do if they try and do something. They really can't because the election is what triggers who becomes president. So not having it simply means that there would be no president at some point. So
yeah. My thoughts on this is that there's going to be an election. It's going to happen. As for
it'll probably happen when things are shut down again.
As for the news about the more types of COVID-19, especially impacting younger children, this should be expected because a virus mutates. Viruses have different. There's already 4 different types of COVID-19.
3 that I'm aware of. Maybe is there 4?
Oh, wait, all
I'm
right.
sure there is. I mean,
correction on three.
There's three. There's 3, 4, 5, 10. There's an amount.
There is
It's
at
like the
least,
flu
okay,
virus.
all right.
It's a
there's different variations of it, and I hate saying it is something to be expected, because this is what viruses do. They do mutate, they do change, and it is rather frightening to hear about. And as we are in this rush to reopen up the country, it's the price to be paid, because it is a real reality that we're going to see more dangerous forms of COVID-19, and I'm so sorry about that. Now,
Hello, Amazon fulfillment here. There are 2 main types of COVID currently.
thank you.
Yeah, there's A, B, but there's a smaller C strain, but
there's
mainly
a
A and
smaller
B.
one.
Yeah, there's a smaller C strain. All
For
right.
now, it's smaller. For now.
So now, and then also to Ben Riley, $5 super chat. Really, thank you so much, Ben Riley,
Thank
for
you,
the $5
Ben.
super chat. Could you do an interview with R&R Law Group for analysis on the Ahmed Arbery case? I sent some info.
I'll send that to you. We'll try. Yeah.
Send it info.
like-
I know that this week, at the end of this week and next week, we get the Greens and Libertarians on our show. I will see what I can do, but we do have to move on
And
now
again,
to our next story.
hey, Ben, thank you so
Yeah.
much for doing this. Yeah, we will. If you send us info, I'll make sure we get it to kids so we can try it. So just as always, if they get back to us, we'll talk to them.
If they get back to us. But you guys have been really helping us out too. But now we have to really move on now because we are running short on time. To our international audience, to our viewers and subscribers who live in Canada, Australia, Europe, or anywhere else on this wonderful planet, we don't have Medicare for all, universal health care, single-payer health care. We don't have that. We pay we pay for our health insurance like morons.
Hooray!
Duh.
We spend twice as much per
Yeah,
person.
so we're a bunch of idiots over here because our government is bought by the corporations, by the health insurance industry, by big pharma. And so Americans are basically screwed because our health insurance, our medical benefits are tied to our jobs. And hey, people are becoming broke. People don't have jobs anymore. So why is this important?
This seems like a bad system in retrospect.
Hold on. Check this out. We need single payer like yesterday. Medicare for all case made as 16.2 million people lose employer-tied insurance. In just 2 weeks, the number of Americans estimated to lose their health insurance as a result of the coronavirus pandemic grew by nearly 4 million, according to the Economic Policy Institute. The EPI estimates that 16.2 million workers overall have lost their insurance they have carried through their employers since March, when the coronavirus forced industries across the country to shut down, laying off and furloughing tens of millions. The think tank previously estimated research published at the end of April that 12.7 million had lost their employer-based insurance. Thursday's estimate number comes on the same day as the Department of Labor announced that another 3 million Americans lost their jobs in the last 2 weeks, bringing the total number of unemployed workers since March to at least 36 million. But hey, you know what? I'm not going to acknowledge 36 million. You want to know why I'm not going to acknowledge 36 million? Because we did a report 2 weeks ago about how millions of Americans are still not recognized as being unemployed, even though they did file, because we have an antiquated system here in this country.
Or
so
if they've been
probably
unemployed too long.
Or if they've been unemployed too long. So it's not really 36 million. I'm going to shoot this number out, and Daniel, you have every right to correct me and yell at me, but probably the number is 50 million.
I think that's fair.
50 million?
I think it's fair.
But if
I might even go to 60.
But yeah, hold on. I was going to shoot at 60. But if things keep on getting worse and there's a second wave and we have another stock market crash, 60 million, 70, 80, 100 million Americans on unemployed. Really?
And again, this goes back to, just very quick, I know you have to go with this,
Yeah.
but again, it really has to do with the way the U.S. defines what unemployment is, which is basically, are you actively looking for a job, currently putting in the effort, filing all the paperwork, have access to the internet, which I'm sure you can afford, blah, 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 within 6 months or whatever period of time. And then if you take too long, you're no longer unemployed and unemployment number goes down. Or if you stop looking at all, or if you do something else, unemployment number goes down.
But hold on. Here's what it stands to. As more and more Americans lose work, at total 43 million people could eventually lose their access to health care as a result of this pandemic. Other wealthy countries have been able to continue to offer medical care that's free at the point of service to all residents, even as they face government shutdowns and unemployment crises of their own. So in other words, the rest of the international community is smart enough, clever enough, because I want to get everyone angry. They're smart enough and clever enough to actually take care of their people. So I guess at the end of the day, the Canadians, the Europeans, the Australians, and everywhere else, they're smarter than us. They're better than us. They have social safety nets. So I guess we got to resign and just bow our heads that we're just too stupid to figure it out. that we just must accept our leadership from Washington, D.C., and the leaders in Wall Street and the big banks, the peoples in the suit and tie who think they know every fucking goddamn thing. They're drinking and dancing all the while thinking that we are weak. We are starving and people are at real risk of losing their lives because we don't have health care in this country. Bernie Sanders, this whole entire crisis was tailor-made. If there was a God or a pantheon of gods, and if they ever wanted to create a scenario, a true scenario that is tailor-made for your goddamn message that you fought for, that you made millions of Americans believe in, then why didn't you fight for this? Because this is a real reality. And Biden and Trump, they don't give a damn. They're two old men that are clearly out of touch and not qualified for the highest office of the land. So what do? We strike. We got to do a national strike. It's the only thing I got because that's the only way you're going to make people like Ice Cream, Nancy Pelosi, and all these other people in Washington, D.C. to pay attention to us because they want to return things back to normal, even if it means killing us. We deserve more. We deserve better, and we all know we deserve better. This system we have doesn't work. The rest of the world has figured it out. So are we, one, too stupid, or two, do we actually take action and step up and fight for each other? Because we're not going to get it from Washington, D.C.
So, Kit, I'm going to use a Democratic establishment talking point and blow
What,
your
vote
entire,
blue no matter who?
blow your
Fuck off,
entire
I'm voting
argument out
third
the
party.
wire. Ready? But workers like their employer-based health insurance. Oh wait, never mind.
Yeah,
They don't have it
or use
anymore.
or use it like Rahm Emanuel. No one's running up to me saying get rid of my health insurance. Hey, to our viewing audience, you guys can keep him. We don't want him back in Chicago. So when you see him as a pundit, keep him. When you see him on TV, you keep him. We don't want him here. Okay, you guys keep him. Take him. We don't want him back in Chicago. You keep Rahm Emanuel. So with that being said, we go out, we strike, we fight back. Because those bastards in Washington, D.C. don't give a damn. Millions of Americans are going to be at risk, and we have to stand for each other. Option A, are we too stupid to figure out how to get Medicare for all? Or option B, do we get off our chairs, do we get off our goddamn asses and fight for it? That's the only way we're going to do anything. We got to fight. Daniel, with the final word or story, take it away, buddy.
Okay, so we got another story for you guys. This is our final story of the night.
Final story. Until we get to our second hour, we'll be joined by Lainey Peterson.
Right. That is a fair and good and honest correction. So, on top of everything that's been happening, we've been talking about hazard pay and how, hey, $2 really probably doesn't cut it. Well, striking sanitation workers in New Orleans just got replaced by prison laborers because America's free. And I want to remind everyone that you always need to mentally associate. When you hear prison labor, you have to always say slavery. Like you can't, they're the same thing. It's just a rebrand of something old. It literally is an exception written into the amendment. So let's talk about this. By the way, if I'm not mistaken, if you're taking out the trash, it's probably dealing with a lot of corona. So let's talk about this. New Orleans sanitation workers were fired last week for demanding higher wages and better safety protocols. Now, I'm going to say just really quick before I get into this. I know in Chicago, if you're or in like the Cook County area, if you're a garbage worker, you make pretty decent money, like $70,000 a year. So when I first heard about this, I'm like, that's what I'm thinking. But wait, it gets worse. Dozens of workers went on strike protesting their low pay and hazardous working conditions amid the COVID-19 pandemic, which has ravaged the state of Louisiana. At least 20 workers staged a protest on the morning of May 5th, demanding hazard due to the immense risks involving their work. Known as hoppers, the workers are dangerously exposed to immense health risks due to the constant handling of trash and waste and are not given proper protective equipment. This is, by the way, this is New Orleans. Just want to remind everyone, New Orleans. The private waste management company, of course it's private, that employed the sanitation workers, Metro Disposal, responded to the demands by firing several of the striking workers. Now the company is using prison laborers as strike breakers. Yeah, in America, we're using prisoners, slave labor, to... Anyway, Gregory Woods, one of the sanitation workers who staged the protest outside the Metro Disposal offices, told local reporters that the grievances had been intensifying for a long time, but that coronavirus pandemic and the poor response by the company was the final straw. We're out here dealing with toxic waste every day, Woods told local NBC affiliate. They always rush us on the clock. The workers who are paid just $10.25 an hour,
No.
which is like something. Was that
No.
barely $20,000 a year? Barely.
That's not enough.
Again, here I think they're paid $70.
That's not enough. Oh my God.
To pick trash, sometimes from 4 a.m. to 4 p.m. Also demanded a pay increase too, not $30, which I think actually our garbage people would effectively be like 30 or 40 bucks an hour. They're not asking for that. They're just saying, hey, can we just make it 15 to do this work? Anyway, so that's what they got fired over. Was they're like, no, fuck you. Woods addressed the overall poor working conditions at Metro Disposal. Trucks need to be fixed. They have hydraulic fluid leaking on us. We get paid late. Everything is just bad here. And then following, Metro Services Group has hired several prison inmates from local Livingston Parish to replace striking workers. I don't think you could get more terrible things in this. You have underpaid people who are asking for the bare minimum to get paid effectively half what they get paid here, and they're fired and replaced with slave labor.
Okay. Here's my comment on this. The way we treat people in this country will come back to haunt us, and those prisoners are people. And like we did a report, 2 reports on what's happening here in Cook County, and there's a real risk of COVID-19, infecting those entire facilities. This is a nationwide problem, so you're just going to cause a problem to get even worse. And on top of that, too, those prisoners are people, and those strikers were people. And everyone's getting screwed over. The only people not getting screwed over are those on top, those that are sitting at the table, those that are eating the fine meals and laughing and eating ice cream and joking with each other and smiling. I want to wipe that smile off their face. We must do a whole national strike. And let's remember, too, about those prisoners, too. While we all might agree, hey, look, if you're a bad person, you commit a crime, yeah, you got to go to jail, right? If you hurt people, then yeah, I get it. But come on, you're exposing them to a really dangerous virus and also making them do a job that probably some of them aren't really trained to do. It's the same thing with the prisoners who are firefighters in California, and those prisoners are putting their lives on the line.
Hey, but Kit, they don't say that. They get $1 an hour.
Yeah, but you want to know what's really sad? Is that when they do get out, and after all those skills, learning what it means to be a fireman, the state of California won't allow them to become firemen. Huh. Really messed up system we have here. Doesn't that cause you to get angry? Doesn't that cause you to boil your blood? Doesn't that cause you to get upset? We have every right to be angry because for years the establishment has convinced all of us that we, each of us, are the other and our own worst enemy. Like all of us are somehow conspiring against one another because one group is holding the other group back. That's not the case at all. The real person, the real villain, the real bad guy of the story is the man in the suit and tie on Wall Street, the man in the suit and tie who owns the bank, the man in the suit and tie who runs the corporation. Those 3 individuals also bought our government. All those people are smiling and dancing and drinking because they believe we are weak, that we are stupid, that we are dumb, that we just don't have what it takes. But we know better. We know so much better. We know about the reality of this world. We know about the reality of what we have to face with. And only together, by standing up in unison, can we change this world. Yes, I want things to go back to a place where it's secure and we're all able to provide for our families and our loved ones and our communities. But in order to do that, we have to fight for a better future. Don't be that person who says that they wish they could have helped. And whatever which way you can, we can fight for it. It just requires the initiative to step up. Now is not the time to be having indecision. Now's the time to fight for it. And we can and we will.
Yeah, this is America, everyone. America in 2020, not 1820.
And also
1720.
Little says this. I'm going to read this chat from Little. The Berlin Wall didn't fall by vote or protest, but by unity and sledgehammers.
And we do have a super chat as well.
Oh, we do. Suffragam. Louisiana State Penitentiary is the worst. Angola. Oh my God.
And again, I'm going to point out the irony in the governing bodies that let this happen. The southern states have orchestrated by their own governance, by their own Republicans that are there, your Mitch McConnells and such, the worst poverty. They take the most money from the blue states and yada, yada, yada. They also think that their workers, their people, need the least, are owed the least, and deserve the least. But I guess they got good fried chicken somewhere. So
Yeah. All right, but now we are going to switch things up, and we are going to bring back. We're going to bring in the incredible, the outstanding, the awesome, the knowledgeable, the wonderful Lainey Peterson. She is joining us. So, Lainey Peterson, you are now the captain of the second hour of Hard Lens Media. Lainey, please take it away.
I look forward to that intro every week, Kit. Just incredible boost to my self-esteem.
And Laney, this is why I always feel terrible all the time. I only get one adjective at most. One time, I remember it. I said I got 3 adjectives one time.
Look, Daniel, hey, listen. I'm not a miracle worker. Okay? Come on. What do you want from me?
3 adjectives.
All right.
So we've got a lot of stories this week. Some interesting stuff that's developing. A lot of consumer stuff this week as well. But I wanted to begin with an interesting story I found in the New York Times. The headline, I think, is kind of says it all. White collar companies race to be the last to return to the office. And for a very long time, there's been a lot of resistance among a lot of big companies regarding people working from home. Telecommuting or telework. Telework is more of a government term. Some places allowed it to happen and you could do it, but it was kind of marginalized. And since the pandemic has happened, a lot of companies have moved to telecommuting and are now saying, yeah, we kind of prefer it this way. And there's so many things going on with this. As many people have pointed out, there are a lot of workers in this country who do not have this option of working from home. And many of them are the so-called essential workers, frontline workers, people who in many cases are not white collar. And in some cases, there are exceptions to that. But in many cases, the people who are working oftentimes the lowest paid jobs, the jobs that offer the least amount of protection, where they're most exposed potentially to contamination, they're the ones who do not ever have that option of working from home. So it's the so-called white collar workers who are getting this option to work from home. The other thing, though, that I think is telling is I'm wondering if a lot of the companies who are real big on working from home at this point, are they just now crunching some numbers and realizing it's a heck of a lot cheaper to make your employees pay for their own home offices?
They're probably, because we were talking about this before we did the show yesterday, and a lot of these major corporations are probably looking at this empty retail space and probably thinking, why do I need to pay this amount when I could have all my workers work from home?
And again, It's like we were saying, it's going to make a really bad dynamic because then all you're going to get is the management's still going to have office space and they're going to be friends and be together, but they're going to get more and more distant from what will eventually just become drones, which you don't get in an office space when everyone's commingling together.
Yeah, that can be a certain risk. But the other thing is, who's paying for the equipment? Yeah. If I'm in an office, in many cases, there are some companies that had the bring your own device thing, which is a security nightmare, by the way. But if I'm in an office, normally my computer is covered, my computer or phone, whatever it is that I need, is covered for me while I'm in the office. Who is assembling and putting together the home office for these people? Are they giving employees an allowance for desk organizers? Are they giving them a phone allowance? Are they giving them money to cover printer paper or a scanner? And what happens to the employees that don't have the latest technology at home?
That's a good point. It's like so basically this is going to be cheaper for them until all of their stuff gets leaked, then it might be more expensive.
And that could definitely be an issue. I'm also thinking about, as you point, as your stuff gets leaked because of security issues, I'm thinking about, many companies do deal with customer and client information that may be sensitive. So I think there's a number of risks there. But right off the bat, I'm thinking, yeah, I mean, I think that telecommuting ought to be an option. It has made it easier for some people to do their jobs, certainly with COVID-19, but people who have disabilities or who are caregivers, that can really help. But um, all of a sudden, yeah, we just love this idea, not only because they were forced into it, but maybe they're crunching the numbers and saying, hey, this is a lot cheaper. And even if we do have to go back to an office at some point, we don't have to go back at the same level we were at before.
Yeah,
But
and
who's profiting? Is the cost savings going to be passed on to the employees,
yeah.
or is it going to go to the executives or the owners or the stockholders? I got a lot of questions.
Yeah,
I think it's also important to bring up too that working from home. I just gonna say this, like doing the show, it was really starting to take a toll on me mentally. And I'm only gonna speak for myself, but I'm so glad to be back in the studio. Like really, it's just I'm glad to do the travel and to drive. I mean, when I first was driving back here, it's like I was unfamiliar with everything. It was so weird going on a long trip because like the longest trip I would do was like maybe go to a Costco and that was it. But like coming all the way up here to the north side, it was like, how am I gonna like? I almost forgot how to do it. Almost that's how crazy it was.
Yeah, again, that was the other thing that I was bringing up the other day. I think it's worth bringing up again that for some people, like staying and working at home is really, really nice and easy and convenient, and it does all the things that fit their life. But a lot of people, like I got the same with Kit. I was like, again, go to CGP Grey is like one of some of the easiest ways to make yourself miserable, and that's to eat, sleep, work, and shit in the same room, as close as you can get to those, making those things happen with the least amount of sunlight and the worst amount of sleeping schedule. And if you're a coder, that's like, and then we're talking about the Microsoft people, the Google people, the Twitter people, that's sort of that's like what they're designed for. And especially if you do that, and a lot of these people, if they don't work out, they're not doing any routine. And like we've seen in COVID, everyone's going to get, it just seems like no one's going to win, and at some point people are going to be like, yeah, maybe it's better that they come back to the office, but only after a loss. Like I'll say for us, it's just harder to communicate, get things happening, plan, make decisions. So I'm assuming that there's going to be less decision making and more order giving that's disseminated. And I think, Lainey, you're entirely right as well that what if you get robbed? Oh wow, no, the laptop that has all of our social security information for the employees. Oh no, I didn't password protect that.
Yeah. Yeah, so there, I as I said, I think that I'm glad that this might open up the possibility of at least not requiring employees to be in the office every day for people, more processes for people who do have health concerns or who are living far away from the office or that sort of thing. Yeah, I mean, I think that these are great options. But if we're just we're just going to give up the main office and either go to a shared workspace or a much smaller workplace with all of the employees scattered elsewhere, I have real concerns about who's profiting from this, and does this add another layer of burden to the employee? And that is a concern. But I thought it was an interesting article, so I did want to bring it up. Second thing I want to bring up is that Senator Elizabeth Warren and some other Democrats are proposing a giving workers more time to sue employers under federal wage discrimination and other federal labor laws. Right now, depending on the kind of labor violation that happens, you have a certain amount of time to file your lawsuit. What they're proposing here is that employees would get 90 days after the pandemic emergency comes to an end. After the federal emergency comes to an end, the employees would have 90 days to file their lawsuit. And I think that this is a wise move. I know personally, and we've heard a lot about this, employers not being respectful of people's rights and needs during the pandemic, and in some cases, yeah, violating labor laws. And the one real line of defense that employees and workers have in this country is the ability to sue or report an employer for violating a labor laws. And so giving people that extra time, because right now trying to start a lawsuit maybe be very overwhelming for people. This is actually going to give people a little bit of breathing room to
That-
report
that's,
violations of the
is
law.
this something that we know is going to pass, or have they already gotten it passed, or is it still being made?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I think it's
that's a key
definitely
issue.
still in process. It sounds like it's Patty Murray and Tina from Washington, Tina Smith from Minnesota. It's mostly Dems, um, and so I think it's something that's being proposed. I have no idea whether this is going to go through, but I did want to report on it because I think that it is at least some kind of a gesture. I really don't think that workers have a lot of rights protections in this country, particularly because we have such a thin and flimsy social safety net.
I absolutely agree because
And so,
go
just
ahead.
giving people something that they can hold on to, I think is good. I'd like to see more robust workers' rights, but also more robust social welfare policies. That if a job is not working out for an employee, that they don't have to choose between being in a dangerous or miserable or unsuitable position or potentially becoming homeless and losing their health care.
Yeah, we just covered that already earlier in the first hour. It's so backwards what we have in this country, and the very fact that it's been going on for all this time and no one said anything at this point. I mean, this virus just basically showed and unmasked just we are living in a house of smoke and mirrors. The system we have doesn't work, and I do hope that Congress, the U.S. Senate, or the House of Representatives are able to do something for the people. But knowing their past actions, I am I'm preparing myself for the worst, and somehow this proposal will just be thumbs down.
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath, but it is some news and it is some indication of some concern about what is happening to people. People still have that right to file a lawsuit now, but this is a stressful
What's
time to be doing that. I mean, you can still the lawyers are still open for business.
what
A lot
is
of
what
them.
is the current length of time that you have to file this suit? What's the
It
current?
depends on the violation.
Okay.
But what this would do is it would allow for the pandemic to pass, to basically that you're not trying to file a lawsuit in the midst of a pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And this is giving that grace period. So you've got the time at this point to, let's get through this pandemic. And then you've got 90 days
Okay.
to, talk to a lawyer and get things situated and decide what you want to do.
All right. Well, that's all right. Well, here's hoping for the best. I mean, that's all we can
Let's
do.
hope for this. There's just too many bad stories out there about
Yeah.
employers who are taking advantage of this. There are a lot of good employers out there who are trying to do their best, but there are some that are perfectly willing to take advantage of this situation to terrorize people or to just not care, and they're basically gambling on the idea that the worker is so terrified of losing a job under these circumstances
Yeah.
that they're not going to take any action.
I hear you.
And while we do have whistleblower protection for people in this country, realistically, the whistleblower protection is only for about 6 months, and it
6 months.
really doesn't. Yeah, basically, yeah. I mean, they can't fire you or take a negative. They can't take an adverse action for against you, but it's like 6 months because they want to be able to. They don't want a situation where an employer can never fire you for being a whistleblower.
Mm-hmm.
But so they allow. I think it's about 6 months.
So you're saying that if you do whistleblowing, you could go apply to be a police officer, go through all the training, and pass by the time you can get fired, so you can formally join the force.
Yes, exactly. But the point is that the idea is that the whistleblower laws that exist only provide a limited amount of protection, and so that's its own set of issues. But there's the very issue here of getting the time together to put together a case that you have been discriminated against and federal employment law has been violated in your case.
All right.
So you're going to get that extra time after the pandemic is over. So, all right. So moving on, mortgage stuff. So I got clued into this. Matt Taibbi has a newsletter on Substack where I first learned about this from him. So with the CARES Act, there have been certain protections for mortgage holders in this country, and people are being given forbearances, and they're able to not have to make payments on their federally backed mortgages. They're protected against foreclosure. The trouble is that Matt brings up is that, as he put it, or somebody he quoted put it, the the legislators who put this together clearly don't know how mortgages work, because when you take out a mortgage, your mortgage is then sold as bundled and sold as a security, and there is a third party loan servicer that comes in that collects your mortgage. And it's designed, the loan servicers are kind of designed to just collect things and to process things. And then they will act as debt collectors if they have to and harass you or file, try to foreclose. But it's the servicer that you're dealing with. Well, the trouble is that with the way that the bailout package worked, is that it didn't do much to bail out the servicers. And the servicers are now being expected to operate without their usual sources of revenue. And as a result, also, and their teams are not really trained, or their processes are not put together to handle situations like this. So we've had a number of complaints, and I think I've mentioned this in the past, of people being denied they're being denied their right to postpone payments, or being told, yeah, we can give you a forbearance for 3 months, but you'll have to pay the total amount due at the end of 3 months, or we're going to foreclose. They've been given all kinds of wrong information by these companies. And in some cases, this is bad training and misinformation. In other cases, it sounds to me like it could well be outright fraud. So this is an issue. It's being exposed quite a bit. There's actually quite a number of journalists that are shining some light on this. But I wanted to remind everybody listening to us today, and if you have friends or family members who have mortgages and they find themselves in this situation, keep in mind, your mortgage servicer does not work for you. The mortgage servicer is basically working on behalf of the securities company owners that hold the note on your home. And they're not the people that you talk to at the mortgage servicer, they're not really obligated to act in your best interest. They're acting in the interest of their own company and the securities firms that they're collecting for. And so you need to be very careful about what you believe from them, because they may be giving you entirely wrong information and scaring you unnecessarily. So if at all possible, talk to your own attorney. If you have a financial planner, they might be able to help you. There are HUD certified housing counselors who might be able to help, and you can contact with them on a statewide basis. But there are people who will act in your best interest and who are concerned about your interests in this matter. But those people are not the people at the loan servicer who are calling you up and threatening you.
Okay. Well, I mean, at least there, people are self-aware, because, I mean, again, right now we are in this crisis where, people are at real risk of losing their homes and apartments, and, all this information is pretty much important so that we can continue to push forward.
Well, it is important
and
to push forward.
Also for protection for the individual, too.
Protection for the individual. And I would want to point out that when this happened back in the crisis, back in 2008, there was a serious problem with people misunderstanding what they were being told by the mortgage companies and the mortgage servicers. And these people were, in some cases, abandoning their homes before they could even be legally evicted after a foreclosure. And not only did these people, they lose their home and went through the stress of either being homeless or having housing insecurity. In some cases, they ended up facing what was called a zombie foreclosure. And that was because the lender never bothered to complete the foreclosure. So their name, the name of the people who left their homes thinking they were doing the right thing because they were confused, their name remained on the title of the home, and they were held responsible for what happened to this abandoned home. And what often happened is squatters would move in, or junk metal people would come in and they would strip the pipes, they would strip it, the home became worthless and dangerous. And in some cases, these folks found themselves, for example, unable to qualify for medical benefits because technically they still owned the property, even though they thought they didn't own it anymore. In one case, a man who was dying of cancer was threatened with criminal charges and jail because his house was seen as blight and a nuisance and a danger to the community. So this does happen as well. So again, what I'm saying is if you are concerned about paying your mortgage, you cannot be listening to what the loan servicer tells you. You need to get your own independent advice, whether it is from an attorney, either your own attorney or through legal aid, a HUD housing counselor, your own accountant. Listen to what they're telling you, not what the servicer is telling you,
Agreed.
if you want to save your home.
That's crazy. I mean, oh man, it's amazing.
This is beyond crazy.
Yeah.
Look up, Google zombie foreclosure. The stories you will find will make your hair curl.
That's
It's unbelievable. Now, on the flip side, I mean, I had some friends. They lost their home to foreclosure. They were out of that home for 2 years. Squatters never showed up. Finally, he and his wife divorced. His ex-wife one day walks into the home. She still has the key. The door opens. She walks in. She gets on her phone, calls up the lender and said, "Hey, I'm back in my old house." They ran some numbers. And they said, "Okay, we're going to work with you."
Wow.
Yeah, because they never bothered to complete the foreclosure.
So is there anything that you can do if you are forced out of your house, you're told that you have to leave by a lender, and they don't do the paperwork properly? Can you sue them for failing to do the paperwork?
The lender can't force you out of your house. You can only be evicted through a court process.
Oh, okay. So basically what you're saying is these are people that are all jumping before they should because they don't understand their rights.
They don't understand their rights. They don't understand the process, and they're trying to do the right thing. You know, they signed a contract, they signed the mortgage, and they were not able to meet the terms of those mortgages, usually for reasons outside their control, but they signed the contract. So they're trying to be honorable.
I see.
And do the right thing. And in some cases, and they may have a job offer out of town. They may have friends or family members who are willing to take them in and let them live on the property. So they're trying to move on, and they don't understand their rights. And they've got this paper saying in the mail saying, certified letter, we're foreclosing. Well, they assume that it's over with.
Okay.
So it's a matter of people not understanding their rights. And as I said, you can't rely on the people who are trying. If you have an adversarial relationship with somebody, and that's what you have with a mortgage servicer or the lender, you can't rely on them to tell you what you need to do to take care of yourself.
Right.
Absolutely.
Not the way it works. So I want to point that out. Also, another little interesting bit of news. If you have an FHA mortgage, and a lot of people do, the FHA mortgages, particularly for first-time homeowners, are usually a really great deal. And you're having some issues with your mortgage, you're being offered an additional benefit in addition to being able to enjoy the forbearance. You may be, first of all, they will make it clear that you're not going to be required to make a lump sum payment of the arrearage after that period of time is taken care of. They've made that clear. The other thing that I find kind of interesting is that they're now saying that you can, if you have these missed payments, you may be able to defer these payments until you sell your home, and then you can pay them at that time after you sell your home. So that's another option. I would once again encourage speaking to your own attorney or financial advisor about that, because it may or may not be in your best interest. It's something to be aware of. Also, one thing that people do need to be aware of is that if you are choosing to take advantage of these forbearance programs where you're not having to pay your mortgage while you are trying to get your job back or get your life back during the pandemic, you may not be able to buy a new home or refinance for a year after that. And one problem that they've been having with this whole mess is that some of the mortgage servicers don't understand what they're doing, and they're actually putting people into forbearances when they're actually asking for different accommodations. These people are emerging from the forbearance period, or are going to emerge from the forbearance period with a year of not being able to refinance or buy a new home. So understand that when you choose one of these programs, you may be limiting your rights in other areas, which is why it's incredibly important for you to pay very, very close attention to what the terms of the agreement are, but also, again, seeking independent advice.
Okay.
All right. All right. Well, hey, we gotta keep on pushing forward. All right. Well, at least we know.
I want people to know about that, and this is what you tell your friends out there as well. Okay, some more news about car loans. Okay, so NPR wrote a story today about auto dealers are ready to make a deal, and they're offering things like 7-year notes with no interest. Well, the interesting thing is, just late last year, NPR did a story about the 7-year notes and pointed out that they're oftentimes not a great deal. And a lawyer friend of mine pointed this out today as well. One of the things is that as soon as you drive that car off the lot, it loses value. All right. So you
Right.
are automatically underwater. When you take out a car loan, you're automatically underwater on that car loan. And now that they're offering these very enticing, no interest 7-year loans, that sounds really good because it keeps the monthly payment low, but you're locked in for 7 years on that. And if you decide that you want to, or you need a new car, or you decide, that you decide that that's what you want to do, or that this car is no longer working for you, you can be in a real pickle if you're still under that note, and you're going to have to you might have to pay the difference. And even with the trade in, it's not at all clear that you're not going to end up having to plunk down a lot of cash. NerdWallet, I put an article, link to the article in NerdWallet again, which explains this in great detail. It's a great personal finance newsletter, and it explains why this can be a real problem and suggests other things like, maybe not going for the 7-year note or putting down a down payment so that you can reduce the stress of trying to get a new car if the car that you have, you don't want it for 7 years. You may not want it for that long.
Right.
So this is something, again, to be aware of, that the dealerships are, they're going to come out of the woodwork, and they're going to offer you all kinds of good deals, particularly if you have good credit. But the 7-year no interest deal may not be the deal that you want. You have to think long term.
Okay. Well, I've always heard the story of, like, if you were to pull a car off a lot and then all of a sudden it just depreciates in value. It's rather disheartening because, again, it's like, can you imagine you have this brand new car, and as soon as you find out, oh, it's not worth as much as it was when it was first in the car lot. So, like, here you go, you got a rotten banana peel. That's it.
Yeah, I can imagine that. It's like, how long? Do you know what the average length of most Americans hold onto a car is before they either sell it or?
I don't know how long they hold on to it. I know the average car is about 11 years old, but I don't know how long people hang on to the car. I mean, I gotta tell you, I mean, I don't drive myself, but I'm kind of on the opinion, do you really want to spend a lot of money on something that is automatically depreciates in value? And I understand that you're getting a lot out of it, and having a good car is very important to a lot of people, but the average car price is something like $34,000 now.
Yeah.
New car price, yeah.
I guess
Yeah, I mean,
the only thing I can think of that would buck that trend would be like Elon's dream when Teslas can be robo taxis and make money for you while you're at work. But yeah, I mean, can't think of anything that cars lose value. They're not appreciating. They're not homes. No. They're not. They're actually. I learned this. This is an interesting thing. Like, mobile homes also depreciate in value just like cars do.
They do. Now, mobile homes can have, for many people, there's some really nice mobile home units out there. They do depreciate in value. So the financing is different. But for many people, if you're not planning to leave it to somebody, you're not trying to build wealth with it, it does provide shelter. And a car provides transportation. Right. And so they're very useful things, but there are some very backwards ways that we end up financing them. And again, the literature on this basically says car dealers confuse people with the monthly payment when you have to look at what you're paying overall and what are the consequences if you want to get rid of the car during the loan term.
Right.
That's really important to keep in mind. And so right now, again, if you've got good credit, you're probably getting some offers, maybe getting calls from your dealership. Come on in, we'll make you a deal. And you might be able to get a good deal, but you have to take into consideration every aspect of the transaction, particularly if you think about it. Do you know that you're going to be staying or living where you're living right now over the next couple of years? You may not be. If we're moving into this we're in this recession, we're moving into a depression. Jobs may scatter, family units may come together in different ways. You don't know what's going to happen. Do you want to take on a major commitment like, a car loan like that?
I don't know who can, especially as we reported, like already, at least according to official reports, there's 36 million Americans who filed for unemployment. But myself and Daniel both commented that, like, number one, there's millions of Americans that filed for unemployment and are not recognized as being unemployed. And not to mention, two, there's groups of individuals that have been on unemployment but are no longer recognized in the system as being on unemployment. So now they are just falling through the cracks. So that number could be even higher than 36 million, like 50 million, 60 million. And if things keep getting worse, do we dare humor the number of 100 million Americans unemployed? I dread the
I don't even want to think
headline.
about that. I don't even want to think about it. But I think, again, one of the things that I would say is, okay, if things are this precarious, do you really want to take on a major encumbrance?
No, not me.
Even if the monthly payments are low.
Nope.
Right.
And
Yeah,
look,
I mean,
I
yeah.
wouldn't mind, look, I wouldn't mind driving a brand new Tesla right off the lot, but I know I can't afford it right now. I mean, that's is not
Yeah,
gonna
and you
happen.
may not be able to for a while. And so, again, 7 years is a long time. 7 years is a real long time.
Yeah, no, think about it. What were we doing 7 years ago? I think we were a lot happier.
What? Really?
It's like, well, not. I'm being a little facetious, but I mean, like, things just seem like, man, 7 years ago, those were the simple days.
No.
Well,
they were
I
not the
remember,
simple
what was
days.
it?
They were never the simple days. What's wrong with you?
7 weeks ago or so, we were in having a great dinner together downtown in Chinatown.
Yeah,
Think about what's
that's
happened
right.
since then.
yeah,
That's
Kit.
right.
Yeah, Kit. Simpler times.
Well, okay. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Back then, we were like, oh no, people are boycotting Chinese business. Let's do our. Oh wait, no, it's much worse.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
still, that was a good dinner, though.
It was a fabulous evening. Looking forward to seeing y'all again. Some point in our lives. That'd be kind of nice. Okay, moving on. So I got an article from a industry site for the debt collection industry. I chose it because it actually does a really good job of talking about how in the next proposed stimulus packages, the Dems are going for debt collection protection. You recall last week I pointed out that a lot of the protections for consumers when it comes to credit reporting and debt collection require consumers to reach out to their creditors and to make arrangements, and then the protections kick in. There's more extensive protections that may be coming into play here. One thing is that the writer of the article is upset because it's going to make things very difficult for debt collectors. You have to keep in mind, many, although not all, debt collectors are in fact debt buying companies. So back in the day, it used to be if you had a third party, companies would hire a third party debt collector to contact debtors on behalf of the creditor. And they would get a commission. The debt collector would get a commission on everything they collected. Well, what's going on now in many cases is that the debt collection companies are buying up the debts. They're buying up old bad debt, pennies on the dollar, and they're trying to see what they can get. But they're the ones who've invested everything into this. And so with all of these restrictions on debt collection and credit reporting, it is the debt collector, particularly the debt buyers, that are left holding the bag. But I just wanted people to be aware of this. This is not happening yet, but it's some of the things that will be happening, that there will be restrictions on reporting bad debt during this time. There will be, there will be restrictions on how medical debt is reported, that sort of thing. So I want to make people aware that there are efforts to provide additional consumer protections at this time that are not necessarily going to require the consumer to actively seek out every single creditor and work with the creditor. Again, however, this has not been passed. It's something that's being considered at this time, something for people to be aware of. Until, however, that happens, if you are having trouble paying your debts right now, credit card bills or the like, you need to contact the creditor and tell them what's going on and work with them. And when you do that, then that starts to activate some of your rights under the CARES Act, which can restrict reporting of bad debt and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So, all right. Wow. Eesh. Debt, the one thing that's crippling all Americans right now. I can't even.
It is.
Yeah.
It is crippling Americans. And then, of course, you have the credit reporting system, which is a private enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
The credit reporting companies are private enterprises who do not work for the consumer. They work for credit grantors. And so once again, they're not, as I've pointed out, they themselves are not, they're not required to act in your best interest. Although, as I did mention last week, you can now request a free copy of your credit report each week through annualcreditreport.com. So if you want to monitor your credit right now, you can do that for free on a weekly basis. But yeah, so we're moving forward with some of the new reality here, which is it's not business as usual. It is starting to happen a bit. We can keep pushing on it that will happen, but this is, in my opinion, we're bailing water out of a boat.
Yeah. So, real quick, I know that there are some people commenting on this. I think we should mention
Yes, I
this
was
too.
looking this up. It looks like half of YouTube just crashed. We survived, though, for the first time in forever.
Okay, so yeah, that's a rare moment. It's nothing against. I don't think this is a Comcast thing.
I was
think.
curious about that too.
No,
Yeah.
no, I was looking. YouTube was down all over the planet.
So yeah, YouTube crashed, and we somehow survived.
This is a rare moment in Hardlands media history. Usually
We won. We won. It's a win-win. So it's.
Well, it's not a win-win. It's not good. We did lose a lot of the people who did get knocked off YouTube.
We did lose
So
half.
I'm gonna care for those people right now. It's we didn't fall apart, and other people can come back.
Yes, so be sure to tell everyone that Hardlands Media is still live, everyone.
Yeah, we didn't go anywhere. YouTube just went
Yeah.
down around us. Like I was looking, you couldn't search for anything. Subscription wouldn't pop up. But if I searched Hardlands Media directly, I could open it up, but the video wouldn't play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and hold on, 206 War Eagles. Wow, I thought they pulled the HLC crew. Nope. Hardlands Media crew is still around.
Yeah, luckily it wasn't us this time. It wasn't Comcast. It was just all of YouTube.
All of YouTube. That's very frightening and disheartening.
What a rare moment to say,
Yeah.
thanks, Comcast.
No, I'm not saying thanks,
Oh,
Comcast.
sorry, too far? My
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
That's too far.
That's a bridge
Hey,
too far,
hey,
Gunner.
Hey, get
Don't
out.
ever let that happen
Get
again.
out of here. Get out
You
of
get
here.
out of here.
How dare you think Comcast?
Okay, so yeah,
I'll just
so
go ahead and switch
tell
this and,
so tell everyone that Hardlands Media is back. We are still here. We're still live. We survived the crash. Wow, I can't believe
We got it, guys. Yeah, that's it. We survived the crash.
We
Gunner,
survived
we
the
can
crash.
work. We can work with surviving the crash.
we survived the crash. There we go.
Gunner, we survived the Comcast. That's a fair
The
compromise.
com crash.
The com crash.
com-
That's
Com-
it.
Actually, I'm not sure.
The
if I like
crash,
that.
Comcast,
Yeah.
crash.
You know what? I think that Comcast has been so terrible to us, even though it is clearly YouTube's fault. I think we should all blame Comcast.
Yeah, sure. Why not? That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
One's
I
in the
think that's
chat
fair.
for blaming
In fact,
Comcast.
in the chat, type 1 if you want to blame Comcast. Type 2 if you want to blame
Yes.
YouTube.
I think
There we
that's
go.
fair.
Let's make
That's
things
fair.
lively.
Nice and
Let's make it
democratic.
happen. Let's make it happen. Laney, take it away.
All right. Moving on. And so we've been talking about in the show a lot about the fees that third-party delivery companies have been charging restaurants, and particularly mom and pops that do not necessarily have their own drivers, and some of the dirty and underhanded tactics, like setting up websites that look like an official website for a restaurant, but in fact are owned by a third-party delivery company. Situations where phone numbers on Yelp or in other places are actually they're not the official number for a restaurant, but are redirected through a third-party service so that they can charge a fee. New York City Council has passed a bill capping third-party food delivery fees at 20%. and it will run through a 90-day period after the lockdown ends. And so it's been supported by Mayor de Blasio. It has passed by the full council. I think that this is one effort that a city is making and saying, look, if you want to do business in the city, you have to, there's got to be some honor here.
Yeah, I agree. I think. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lainey.
People are relying on these services now because people don't want to go out, and it's understandable. We're at a stay-at-home order, but they're relying on these services, and you've got a bunch of businesses, in many cases, that were overnight thrown into a way of doing business that they were never set up to do.
There's another thing too. It's like I really don't like the third-party delivery system where, and not against third-party political parties. There's a third-party delivery system for restaurants.
Oh man, can you imagine the Green Party?
We like the right kind of third parties
Yes,
here
we
at
like the
Heartland.
right. Yes, there's the right kind of third party and there's the wrong kind of third party. I can see people say, "What do you mean? What do you mean by that?" I mean for restaurants, because
And
look,
debt collectors
Yeah,
and loan servicers.
Why
Right,
not do
so-
all of it? Your delivery person is also subpoenaing you. Why not?
So the thing is because there's two restaurants that we really like here in our neighborhood. If we want to go ahead and grab a quick bite or a lunch or something, there's our hot dog station and there's the Mexican restaurant downstairs. And it's I only can imagine if they hired like a delivery service, how much money they'd be taking away from those two locations.
So I'll say something. So I used to every now and then order from Grubhub, and ever since Laney, you showed me that receipt, I've stopped. I haven't gone as far as to delete the app because they usually still have the phone number for the place I want to go to and the menu. But I'm just like, hey, I don't mind driving to a place to pick it up, and I get the sense when I go anywhere to do that the restaurant owners are really happy to see me and not someone with a Grubhub bag. So I had no idea that they were like pulling like 30 to 50% of the charge. And I think you've mentioned before that Chicago is doing something similar.
We're going to talk about that in Chicago Corner. Yeah.
Okay. Can't wait for Chicago Corner. Stay tuned. Tell everyone that
for
Heartland's
Chicago
Media is still
Corner.
live. Let's bring back our audience.
Yeah, hashtag go on to Jimmy Dore's show and be like, hey, can you double tab Heartland's Media, please? we moved an hour earlier for him. The least he can do is have some people double tab open for us.
Absolutely. Okay. So some more information with the Federal Communications Commission. The FCC has been providing financial assistance to telehealth programs around the country, including some here in Chicago. I have a list of grant money or money that's being provided to these telehealth programs to kind of step up the practice of telehealth so people can see medical professionals while we are currently experiencing the pandemic, reducing the amount of time people spend outside, potentially reducing risk of exposure. And I wanted to let people know about this. Also, to remind folks that if you are seeing a therapist or you're working with a medical professional and they're using something like Zoom or teleconferencing, you want to find out what kind of system that they're using, because there are HIPAA compliant systems. Those are systems that are compliant with our federal healthcare privacy regulations and laws, and because sometimes they're not. And there's a real risk of hackers going in and getting these sessions, and your medical information, what you're talking to a doctor or therapist about, I'm sorry to say, could be put on the dark web. And this has been known to happen. And to remind people at this point that, you need to ask, is your system HIPAA compliant? Some doctors, some therapists, if they're older, they don't even know what that's all about. They may think it's fine to use the stuff that they use for communicating with the grandkids. And they don't understand that they need to use a telehealth system that is HIPAA compliant and that is resistant to hacking. So just to be aware of that. But FCC is going forward to approve new rounds of funding. Also, there was, I mentioned at the early on in the pandemic when we were still in the studio, I mentioned that a lot of telecommunications company had signed FCC's Keep Americans Connection Pledge, in which the internet, broadband, and phone companies got together and said, we're not going to cancel accounts if a person's unable to pay. They'll sometimes put you on a minimal bandwidth plan or something like that. Well, the pledge has been renewed through June 30th. Now, again, you're still going to have to pay that money once once the agreement ends. And so I'm reminding you about that. So if you do owe money, you might want to call them up, work out a payment plan, or see what you can do. But for right now, many of the major companies in the U.S. have signed the pledge and will not be suspending your service.
So wait, when you say this, is this like we were talking about before? If you aren't paying now, is it cumulative? You still are paying every month. It's just deferred, or is it just when it resumes, you have to start paying again?
I believe it looks to me like this is going to be it's going to be deferred. You're going to have to pay it.
Okay.
Which is why I'm suggesting contact the company, see what you can do to work that out. It's not like the housing payments where that's going to be a lot easier to work out. I'm not seeing anything with the phone companies indicating that won't be the case. Now, I know with Xfinity, which is Comcast, they were moving people to their very low cost broadband plan that it's a slower broadband. It works for many things. I mean, it's fine for a lot of things. But they move you to the plan that people who are in the Lifeline program would be on, for example.
Yeah,
and that's like $20 a month.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're going to come out of this with hundreds of dollars in arrears.
That's nice.
But you need to find out. Again, this is a voluntary program. They've committed to this publicly, but it's a voluntary program. So you are going to have to find out what they're doing and how they're going to handle the amount of money you owe at the end of it.
That's nice. Okay, so that reminds me when when we pay a lot of money every month to Comcast, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we'll just shut down your internet randomly." Well, without telling you, we're putting you on the no internet plan when you're doing your live streams.
No, I mean I've had the same problem here. I mean we know it's at the max, and I mean this is.
So I should let you know, Lainey. I know we're live, but whatever. So I did get a note that Comcast said that they should be done according to Comcast no later than Friday.
So today's Friday.
How kind of them?
So if we end up freezing like,
Well, today's Thursday.
oh wait, today. Oh, uh oh.
So just
I'm getting Joe Menchien now.
All day, kid.
I know,
Thursday all day.
It's Thursday all day, every day.
unless you're in Japan.
Oh my God. Well, all right. Well, sorry about that.
Quick,
folks.
get Kit some hair to sniff.
No. No.
Well, you should eat ice cream while you do it.
No.
Okay,
No, not
so
that far
this
gone
is
yet.
actually now Comcast has a lot to moan about. Actually, a lot of these companies do. Basically, what's happened is we know people have been cutting the cord for a long time, and now
Good work,
it
people.
has completely accelerated. Essentially what happened was traditional pay TV subscriptions fell by a record 1.8 million in Q1 2020.
Wonderful.
It's bringing the annual rate of decline to 7.6%. The annual rate of decline, also satellite TV, people are just plunging they're just cutting that off. So it brings the annual rate of decline to 14.3%. I think somebody basically said at 63% of occupied households, traditional pay TV penetration has reached a level not previously seen since roughly 1995. It's just that it's going by the wayside. And so this is part of the reason why people will complain that their cable bill, their internet bills go up and everything after the promotional period. And they go back and they say, well, just cancel the cable. And they'll say, well, we can cancel your cable, but it's not going to change how much you're paying every month because you were on a package.
I had that.
Yeah, I mean, we've all had that happen, which is why I got smart when I had Xfinity installed here. I just said, I want internet only. I wouldn't take anything else because I knew what would happen if I bundled.
Yeah, I just have zero respect for cable and what we see on television now, and that's like one of the reasons. Like I can't remember the last time I watched mainstream television.
Yeah.
in like so long.
Here's a crazy thing that's happening here right now. When we got the connection that we currently have, which is
this is funny,
absurdly expensive. So Comcast was quoting me, and I'm like, okay, I don't know how long we're gonna be here for. Blah, 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 blah. So this is before we knew that this would basically sort of be able to fund itself. And of course now it's, we're trying to keep it up, but so I would talk to Comcast and I was like, okay, what if I just want to do like a year plan, like the business line, like we need an up speed that's, reliable, because we got to make sure we're getting basically, just for you don't know, if you never had a business line before, it's a dedicated line that you're always supposed to have a consistent up and down, and it is dedicated. And because usually if it's like a consumer line, you're like sharing it effectively with all the other people that are on your block. So a dedicated line is for when you're a business, and you always have to have it up. And so I asked them how much does it cost, and they're like, oh, if you just want to have like a 1 year plan, it's like $375 a month. And I'm like, that seems obscene even for a business plan. And so eventually they're like, look, if you do a 2 year plan and you get the basic TV package, it'll be like $228, which is what we pay a month. But you have to have a 2 year contract. You can't do anything less than 2 years, which is basically a $5,000 contract, which is, great. This is what I have to do. But if I didn't add in TV, which is effectively a $25 a month option, it would still be at $375, because they're like, you're gonna bundle and you're gonna like it.
Yep. Yep. I know. And so that's what's happening. And again, this is one of the reasons why I was talking last week and the week before about the concerns with local TV stations possibly facing interference with broadband companies coming in and using white space, or the space between bands on the free TV bands. There's been some concern about that could possibly interfere with the reception of free local television. That remains a concern because many people aren't connected. And Daniel actually asked me, well, how many people, don't really have the broadband access and that sort of thing. So I actually looked into this a bit. It turns out most people in America, by far, for example, do have, for example, smartphones. They do have that. It's probably somewhere up and around 275 million. So that we've got, but there still remains, tens of millions of people in the U.S. who do not have smartphone connection. But we're also looking at the fact that there are a lot of people in the U.S. who do not have access to broadband internet, and that could be as much, according to CityLab, it could be as much as around 42 million people in this country who don't have that, who do not have broadband internet. And there's millions more and millions of other people who don't have smartphones. And even if people do technically have these services, they don't always know how to use them. They may have them because the kid, 5 years ago, the kids bought mom a computer and got her set up, but all she may really know how to use is the cable. She doesn't really know how to, grandma doesn't really know how to use this. Somebody may have a smartphone, but it might be 5 years old and crawling at a snail's pace. So the concern about maintaining access to free media, traditional television, traditional radio remains a major concern in this country. And as I noticed, a lot of people are getting rid of cable. They may be relying entirely on internet, but the internet connectivity, as we've pointed out, is at capacity. Things are slowed down. So to my mind, that makes access to standard free television, free radio to be, again, that must be protected in this country as local media that anybody can freely connect to without having to pay subscription fees or to have a computer or have expensive equipment.
Okay, that's interesting. So one thing I want to say to everyone watching, hey guys, remember when I earlier in the month said everyone should cut their television? Good job. You guys broke all records. I'm glad everyone heard us out, and we're now doing this. Of course, it seems to have caused some additional issues. One thing I'm very interested...
But everyone should be playing the record players now.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, that's not...
Playing the record player, yeah.
So one thing I'm interested in is... So the Comcast and a lot of these other cable providers have fiber laid out. They just haven't extended it all the way to these places. And so right now they're at capacity. They wouldn't be at capacity if they had fiber connection. Now, my thing is, like, another thing Elon's been doing is he's been doing Starlink satellites. And I'm very interested in that because he's effectively, if he completes that, he's going to be competing with every single cable provider on the planet at the exact same time.
Yeah.
When that's up, I wonder what that does to pricing. What that happens because right now, no, they don't have any competition. But if I can just buy like a $100 converter kit and have a very low altitude satellite that I'm connecting to at even a better speed for a similar or lower price, especially if it's a lower price.
I'm curious to see what it all looks like because I would like to have access to that satellite internet system too, and what wonders it can do for us, and maybe we could break away from the monopolies that are hurting us right now.
At least have some.
But keep in
option.
mind that there are still people, and it'll probably be for a long time, who simply are not comfortable
Right.
with this. And there's whole groups of people, again, who, even if you have broadband connection, do you have a computer or a device you connect to it?
Or do you know how to use those?
Do you know how to use it?
Right.
Are you terrified of it? Are you competing with 5 other people in your home for the use of it? I'm all about connectivity. I just want to point out that it's not the be all and end all of media.
True.
So, what I do want to point out is some of the information that I was able to get about this was based on some census numbers. Remind folks, as troubling as things are right now, this is census year. And it is incredibly important to participate in the census because this is what determines the kind of aid and support different areas of the country get. Remember, we're probably not going to have a lot of door-to-door census workers right now in the U.S. And so filling out the census is incredibly important. If you've got the form in the mail, it's there. You can also go to my2020census.gov.
So on that, so actually, me and Myra actually filled that out. Interestingly enough, I'm not sure if this has to do with anything political. Maybe Lainey, if you can let me know. It's very hard to say that you're Hispanic on the new census form online.
Is it really?
Yeah, when Myra's Mexican descent, so when she tried to fill it out, it's basically not an option. You have to kind of work around and manually fill it in. There was no, it was it's like they're trying to make it like it seemed like they wanted to get everyone to say they're white. That's just what I got.
I've heard about that as well. And there's also other groups of people, for example, people who are Arab, for example, or South Asian. I mean, I've heard people have also mentioned that as well. And I've heard this from other ethnic groups that don't fit into but I don't. Yeah, I mean there are different ethnicities in this country. But I have heard that from other ethnic groups, and that is interesting. I know that there was also concern about there being questions about citizenship, and that people were worried that it was going to be used against people who are undocumented.
Yeah, that question wasn't
that
on
seems
there.
to be that seems to have been removed. What I will say is I've noticed around my community is that there's been a lot of effort to reach out to people in their own languages, billboards in Russian and Arabic. All over the city, so encouraging people to fill out the census. But that is interesting, and it's something worth looking into. I'd be really interested in seeing that, because I've heard it about other ethnicities. I have not heard that about Latino or Hispanic populations, but I would be interested in finding out why that is.
Yeah, we eventually sort of did it, but it was such a workaround that if both of us are obviously very cynical, so we're like, they're making it difficult. How do we make this work? But I can imagine for a lot of people, they'll just be like, well, I guess I'll just pick something. So and it sort of goes with what Trump did want, which is basically if you overcount white people and undercount Hispanic people, that sort of gets them sort of what they were asking for. Or you overcount Hispanic people as white people, because I remember when we were filling it out, it really felt like the application was trying to make that a reality.
I wouldn't be surprised. I filled mine out. I didn't pay any attention, but I'm white, so I wouldn't. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
All right.
Interesting. Okay.
I myself am a Latino boy, and so I'm going to fill out the census back here while you guys do your thing and see if I can't find it.
Fantastic.
All right, fantastic. So
Hey.
Gunnar will be giving us a live update very
On the
soon.
ground.
On the ground investigative
Investigation
work.
reporting right here at Heartlands Media.
All right, shout out to Gunner, the guy who's manning the board and making sure everything's running smoothly. Let's make sure it happens.
All
Lainey,
right,
take
excellent.
it away.
Okay, so I think that is it for our national stories. Moving into Chicago Corner,
Chicago Corner.
Cook County is on pace to overtake Queens as the COVID-19 capital of the country.
We're number one.
no.
Wait, no, that's not good. Never
Oh
mind.
no.
No, and the thing that I got, okay, the thing I'm going to say is, everything's changing day to day, minute by minute here. I'm really looking forward to 5, 10 years from now, going back and seeing what the scholars do to come back and kind of look and see what happened with all this.
Yeah.
Because I remember, and this was back in March, when all those people were told to come back to the U.S., and we had those throngs of people waiting 6 to 8 hours in terminals at O'Hare.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Crammed
I remember
together.
those images. Yeah.
And I remember looking at that and saying, I had a lot of thoughts on that, but I'm wondering, if this place is going to become a hot spot, and I'm
then
very
everyone
interested. I'm sorry?
And then everyone voted right after they got out of the terminal.
Yeah. it's
So,
true.
I'm really going to be really interested to see how much they're able to trace. Did Chicago become the hot spot that it is because of the voting, because of flying in? Were there other factors involved? Or was this just something that happened? I'm going to be really, really curious to find out that. But it looks like Cook County is definitely on pace to overtake Queens as the area with the most COVID-19 cases. We've also got Cook County Jail. There's all kinds of things going on right now, but I'm going to be real interested. I'm holding off judgment right now. We're not going to know until the contact tracers can try and figure this information out. Probably going to be a few years. But, did that O'Hare fiasco contribute to what we have in Chicago? And I praise our mayor and our governor for what they've done to help keep things under control, and the city could have been a lot worse. But we've already got problems with, for example, mayors in counties outside of Cook County who are saying, we don't want to be included with Chicago. We're sick of this. We don't want to be on lockdown. We've got some local sheriffs who are saying that they are not going to uphold the orders.
Yep. That's very true.
Which I think is, I'm used to in Chicago, the rest of the state being annoyed with us. And, periodically you'll hear, downstate legislators coming in and saying, well, I think we should just cut Chicago loose.
Yeah,
and not have it in
cut
Illinois.
loose a metropolitan city.
Okay,
yeah,
have fun with your $1 billion of remaining GDP in your new Illinois.
Yeah.
Yep, and your soybeans.
And your soybeans.
But this is just, it's really disheartening to seeing local officials and local government officials further fracture the connections that we have with each other. And it is really disheartening to see.
I've been listening to a lot of Governor J.B. Pritzker's briefings, and, I understand people want to rush back and go back to work. I'm sick of this cult of work personality we have, but, we're not out of the woods yet, and there is a very real reality of a second wave of COVID-19 hitting us. It could be far more deadlier. I mean, it is a possibility. Here's hoping that that doesn't happen and that I am wrong about that. That would be great, but we're still in an economic depression. No matter what we do, we are in a situation that is understandably out of everyone's control. And, all these local officials who are choosing to ignore this, I understand their perspective and what they're saying, but there's a consequence, repercussions by wanting to reopen and trying to put, and basically putting people at risk. The big issue is right now our leaders need to start providing for us as citizens so that we can still survive. There's no going back to the world we once knew. I mean, that's not coming back. It's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kit, I think you hit it right there.
Yeah.
The world we had is gone.
Yeah.
Well,
We've just been through when we're in the middle. We've not just been through. We're in it.
Yeah.
And we don't really know what it's going to look like at the other end.
Yeah.
All I can say is at least we're not doing what we did on 9/11 and just going, okay, let's invade China while we're at it. So
People keep talking about it.
Well,
Yeah.
we're not. I get to say right now that we're not there yet, and that makes me a little.
We're not
bit,
there yet, and
Wasn't
I
made
don't want to
China.
be there because I really, I'm terribly annoyed by this entire situation. Believe me, nobody is more annoyed than I am. But I don't want a pretext for war with China, and I'm really becoming demoralized when I see a lot of the anti-Chinese rhetoric
Yeah.
and the conspiracy theories and that sort of thing. I don't think they're helping anybody, and it's really distressing to see that. I don't like it one bit.
Really quick, I just wonder if like we had like the same kind of like social media and everything existed a couple thousand years ago. Like I wonder if like the end of the Roman Empire felt like this, like what we're feeling right now. Did it feel like that then? It's like everything's crazy. Everyone's making terrible decisions.
I'm going to like minus technology, but probably people are feeling like what we're feeling right now. Like it's unreal until you finally see the barbarians at the gate.
Because that's where I'm kind of at. Like I wonder if what we're feeling is actually really the end of the American Empire and all this stuff that's sort of happening, or like details leading up to it, or if it's these are the big thing that caused the decline. I don't know.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective, but I think how we're feeling right now is probably how other people are feeling. Like even if this is the decline of the American Empire, and I know we're Chicago corner and everything, but like these things happen, and when it does when the final nail hits, there's nothing you could do. This is understandably way out of our control.
Yeah. That might be an interesting special report for Hardlands. Some of us just getting together and doing a roundtable.
That'd be cool.
And
I would
talking
like to do
about
that.
what we remember. Where some of us are in different age groups, we could talk what we remember and how things have changed over the years, how they've stayed the same, and what it feels like to be alive now and watching this incredible transformation. Could be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe something for the Patreon.
We could, yeah, I'd
Ooh,
love
the
to.
Patreon
I'd love
show.
to do like open up at some point some sort of podcast at some point in time. But like,
Yeah.
everything's
about
everything's
podcasts.
on pause until we can
all in due time.
We're all on pause, but we're all in due time.
all in
But
due time,
we're
yeah.
keeping it all going. I did want to mention. We mentioned earlier that New York City is basically looking at capping third-party delivery service fees. What Chicago is doing, I think, is kind of interesting. It's an ordinance that is forcing a disclosure. So what's going to happen is if you're buying some food through a third-party delivery service, the third-party delivery service has to basically break it all out for you. You've got to see the menu price of the food, sales or other taxes, delivery charges, service fees, and by the establishment or the third-party delivery company in addition to the price of the food, any tip that is paid to the person delivering the food and not to the delivery service must be put in there, and any commission associated with the transaction. So what they're saying is, okay, if you want to operate in the city of Chicago, you got to have transparent pricing so that our residents can see what they're paying for. Right now, they'll still break it down for you, but they don't include the commission. They don't show what's being taken from the restaurant. And I think what the city of Chicago is saying is many people in Chicago are having food delivered in part because they want to support local restaurants and local business. Well, we're going to honor that by making this process as transparent as possible.
Yeah.
So there's no cap on it, but they're putting out there in cold light of day.
I really like that. I feel like I kind of like if we mixed what New York is doing along with what Chicago's doing as well. But I think that I like it because, again, like when you showed me how much Grubhub was pulling off of our restaurants, I was like, okay, I'm not using them anymore because exactly right. It's like I'm like, okay, whenever I can, I'm going to help out local places that I like, that I want to survive the pandemic.
Hashtag boycott.
And then I realized, and I talked to the owner of one of the places I went to that I really like, and I was like, oh, I see. You guys are actually really getting screwed. And his point was like, hey, this is basically enough to just kind of maintain what we have and maintain people remembering to order from us, but we don't make any money because of how big the cut is. And
then the other issue is also when you're working with the third-party services, if they're using their own drivers, If the order gets screwed up, it's often the restaurant that gets the bad reviews,
Yeah.
and it can tank the restaurant.
Yeah, and you think an organization like Grubhub cares about those restaurants? Because there's a lot of good Chicago restaurants here. And, ever since Grubhub set up its headquarters at the old Montgomery Wards, it's like, ugh. Like,
Yeah.
they've been a parasite in a way in this city.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I don't have a problem with offering a service to businesses that aren't set up for it. But when you have fee after fee after fee, I have to wonder, your business model is not sustainable for your own clients. What's going on here?
Right.
Yeah.
True.
Not really my thing. Okay, finally, to conclude things, City of Chicago has something called the City Key Card. Now, the City Key Card was originally intended as a city identification card for people who are homeless or undocumented in the city of Chicago, that people could use this card as identification within the city. Now the city wants to try and expand it to everybody living in Chicago. And a couple of things you can do with the City Key is you can use it as it's a government issued ID card. It can also serve as your library and your Ventra card. But the other cool thing is that they're also using it to help you get discounts and things at local attractions, including restaurants, cultural institutions, discounts on admission tickets, on products in stores, ice cream stores, and even at some credit unions now, you can use that card at the credit union as your government issued ID if you want an account. One problem that a lot of people have in the U.S. is that they're underbanked. They're unbanked or underbanked, and they end up paying a lot of fees, and their money isn't secure. With some of these credit unions, like United Fidelity Bank, GN Bank, the credit union, Polish and Slavic Federal Credit Union, Second Federal, you can actually use this card as a primary or secondary identification to get your own account, in addition to all kinds of really kind of cool discounts and perks, as well as your Ventra card and everything, just to be in the city of Chicago. But there's another perk that they're adding now, and that is the Chicago has an RX card, which is a prescription discount card for people who don't have a prescription plan. You can actually use this card to get discounts on your prescriptions as well as medical equipment. And now that's being incorporated into the City Key Card.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, who was the one who proposed the City Key Card?
It's been around for a while. I think it was something from within the city. There was a real issue in the city with people not having ID and they couldn't access services.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it's a real problem. We know this with the homeless population. They will often lose or don't have their ID. People who are victims of domestic violence, and it's trying to get ID, particularly after 9/11 with all the security around identity. Getting an ID, a government issued ID, can be very, very difficult. And so the City Key Card was actually put into place. This was in 2016. The Chicago City Council allocated the money to have the Chicago municipal ID, and then now it's in 2017 it got going, and now it's called the City Key. So it's a citywide ID card that that is easier to get than a lot of other cards, and it can help a person navigate their way around the city of Chicago. But now they want everybody to try and get it because they're adding all these additional benefits for anybody who happens to live in Chicago. And then you've got one card. As you go to the library, you're using the Ventra, you're using the services here in the city, you have one card that you can use. And now they're offering the prescription benefits as well.
That's nice. I think that's good.
Easier
ID is better. I like that.
It's basically some rare good news in the city of Chicago, especially for those that are really struggling. Because, we've covered a lot of stories in regards to homelessness in the city of Chicago, and a lot of people being evicted or people just struggling to make ends meet. And it's rather uplifting to know that there's at least something there to help people out. Now, is it enough? The answer is no, but it's a stepping stone to something better, especially here in the city.
So, question: What do you have to do? What is the cost associated with getting one of these, and what do you actually have to do to get one?
Let me pull this up. Okay, it's only for. Let me pull this up. Anybody who meets Chicago residency requirements, children under the age, children can get the card as well. The first 100,000 cards were free, and then it was $5 for minors, and $10 for adults between 18 and 64. But there are fee waivers available
That's pretty
for
reasonable.
people who are in low income groups. The one thing I will say is one thing I kind of like about it is that it's a one stop shop thing for anybody in Chicago. Gives people a sense of belonging here in the city, but also that it does provide people who are otherwise without an ID with something
See,
that
it's
they can use
so
to try and function within the city. I remember I used to volunteer at a homeless shelter, and we saw this a lot. We saw this with people who, even just to get into a shelter, you might have to have an ID. They didn't have an ID. Well, you have to go get one, or we're going to kick you out of the shelter. I mean, we became ID addicted, which, by the way, is not true in many other countries. They don't have that kind of thing. The idea of walking around carrying ID on you all the time is very strange in some other countries.
At least this. So basically, in a nutshell, this isn't going to get you on a plane. This isn't going to help you with anything federally connected. So it probably won't help you if you're going to the Social Security office. But does it also have like a Ventra option? Is it like just like, hey, if you
Yeah,
want, if
it has a Ventra option.
Okay.
It has a Ventra option. It has the prescription option. It basically covers that. It is a government issued ID card. Whether it's going to be accepted or not by other things, I don't know, but it is a government issued ID, and it can be a stepping stone
Okay. That's,
once you have that. And it also, in addition to Ventra, it's also your library card.
that's
Oh,
nice.
okay.
I think that makes sense. So it's basically a city card, effectively.
Yeah, it's basically a city card,
Okay.
and now they're just adding more value to it, so that anybody who lives here can take advantage of the perks and the benefits, and have everything just in one card.
That seems nice because it's like, I'm sure a lot of people are like, man, I'd love to carry a library card, Ventra card, ID card, but there's so many cards. If they can only be one card.
How convenient.
You have the one card, and there are situations where it's happened, that people are you lose your ID, and then you don't have your ID, and then you're kind of stuck for a while. Even if you have the backup stuff, in this case, you actually have that ID with you. It's just a little something extra for people, but also for people who are undocumented or who have other issues. The fact that there are some banking institutions that are willing to accept it
That's good.
is often critical, because at that point now you can have a bank account.
That's so cool. It's basically a card you can use for all aspects of the city of Chicago and its municipal services and
Yeah.
certain private businesses.
And we've
Oh,
I think Chicago has decided that we don't want people being left out.
That's good.
And
And the
now
price is very affordable too.
the price is affordable. It's got some nice benefits. There are over 60,000 drugs on the prescription drug plan, and anybody can get the card regardless of your income.
So what do you
So-
what do you have to have to actually prove your identity with this? Just like utilities
yeah.
or what?
Let me put it this way. Let me check.
This is
How to apply? Yeah,
This is very nice.
application materials. Document guide for adults. Let's have a look here. Are they also you can also put a veteran designation on it as well.
Nice.
Okay. All right, nice to know about the veteran population here in the city.
So you would need. Let me see. Okay. Basically, you can put together a bunch of different forms. So there would be different, there could be certificate of residency cards, there are firearm cards, temporary visitors, driver's licenses, a bunch of different things, consular identification cards. There's like a huge range of things that you can put together
That's nice.
to qualify. So it's easier to qualify for this kind of ID than other kinds of ID.
So basically, you need, I'm assuming, like 2 documents with your name somewhere on it.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, there's a very long list. In fact, I'm looking at this one. There's there are like, oh my goodness, it's like 1 page, 2. There's probably like 4 pages of options.
I'm liking this. This sounds really good. This is sort of the thing that we like to hear about it. It's like it's user friendly. It has a useful service. It replaces things. It upgrades stuff that came before it. It consolidates things. It uses technology. It's affordable, and it seems incredibly easy to get.
Yeah, a lot easier to get, and that it actually offers some real services. And now they're not just making it for people who have identity issues because they're homeless or they're undocumented. They're actually trying to open it up for everybody in Chicago.
I
So
might
that we
get one
all
of
can,
these.
we're connected. And I want to get one myself. I got a library card, and I got a Ventra card. I'd rather have one card.
We should let me know when you're doing that. We should go together and do a little hard lens documentary.
Or we can show them.
investigation
Yeah,
piece,
yeah. So yeah, it is kind of cool. But yeah, definitely check out the link is in the links in the show notes. Check it out and let your friends and family know about it. And again, because things happen. Like I keep certain ID in a secure place because I've known of people who have they've lost their wallet and there goes all their ID.
Ugh, boy.
And trying to get your life back after that can be incredibly difficult. And again, this is just one more option. You're in the system, and you're not necessarily going to be left dangling if something happens, and your purse gets stolen or something like that. You can actually have an additional form of identification. It never hurts. But it also said it's about being part of the city of Chicago. What I'm seeing right now during this pandemic is the city of Chicago. I think we're showing that we're willing to stand on our own.
Yeah.
And we've seen our governor and our mayor who have been sniping back and forth with the president, but we're saying, look, this is a community, and we are going to work together as a community. And I'm glad seeing my city behave like this. So that's kind of the end of my Chicago corner of my segment today. But I think it's a good way to end it.
Yeah.
Is that the city is really trying to
agree
work
completely.
together.
Okay, so at that note, do we have any update on the census taking?
All right.
That's what this is my intro music. I just made this whole scene. Hey, so we're back. I've actually been trying to make sure the screen doesn't go away for a minute now. So, oh gosh. Technology. Hey, hello. How's it going? That's me. This
All
is
right,
the
that's
screen.
Gunner.
You just go ahead and we'll take a look. There is a question on here. It took me a minute because I was trying to register my cat, but that didn't work. My cat was definitely not someone who was allowed to be in the census. But yes, there is a question here. It comes up. It's maybe like third or fourth after you fill out your household question stuff. I was quiet before, but now we're not. And yeah, so you can make your choices. And then, oh, look at that. Oh, actually, now that we're here, yeah, it's like, what is Gunnar Wagner's race? White, black, or African American? No option here to specify how Mexican
Wow.
I actually am.
Wow.
So that's cool.
So this is breaking on Hard Lens Media, the only
Wow.
independent
But if you go,
progressive
here's the
media
thing,
network.
Gunnar,
talking about it.
if you go through and then go to the next page, I remember there's some. You can go back and forth in pages. There's something that you can sort of say, I'm Hispanic. I remember we found, it was like we just picked like one other race and then had to customize a section. But it shouldn't be this difficult to be one of the largest demographics, the second largest demographic in the U.S.
Come on. You guys are
And
saying
that
that
we
the U.S.
share-
Census was incompetently done? You get out of here.
And that we share a border with a predominantly brown
country
country.
on a later date.
No, that's the final thing. Those get verified years in advance.
Perfect.
Wow.
So that's the
Okay.
final version.
All
it's the
right.
only version.
So we figured it all out here at Harlan's Media. We had a lot of fun. I want to give a special shout out to Kate, who was moderating the live stream chat. Also, a special shout out to Ross Gunner, our guy who was also moderating the live stream chat, also taking care of the show. Special shout out to Lainey Peterson and Daniel Upker for being my two co-hosts. And I also really want to thank all our viewers and subscribers, especially staying with us when YouTube actually shut down. we survived that crash, so we made a lot of history here.
Crash 2020.
Yeah,
We
take
survived
that.
it. Where
Take
were
that.
you?
And,
I'm
and
still
if,
really not a big fan of the whole Crash name. I think that's kind of weird, but we'll continue.
okay.
We'll find a better name,
Well,
but for
we-
now,
we will find
since
a better
no
name.
better name exists, Crash 2020.
So besides that too, if you really want to help out Hardlands Media, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. But if you want to help us out even further, please consider being a Patreon supporter. That will help us keep our studio up and running, update our gear and equipment, and also work on future projects. There's a lot we want to work on here. There's a lot that I really can't say at the moment, but consider being a Patreon supporter, because when this crisis is over, Hardlands Media might be the last independent media network in this city. And you guys, our viewers, our subscribers, our Patreon supporters, are making it happen. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We are live every Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace to you guys, and let us all do what we can to build a better future.